I'll call to order the Planning Commission subdivision meeting for February 28, 2018. Can we have the roll call, please?
Chair DeBolt,
Present.
Vice Chair Riley,
Here.
Commissioner Andrade,
Here.
Commissioner Quilty,
Here.
Commissioner Gross,
Here.
Commissioner Lowe,
Here.
and Commissioner Sofulcanic, absent.
Okay. You'd all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's chairs. Okay. At this time, we'll have oral communications. Any individual in the audience may address the Planning Commission and speak on any item within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Commission. If you wish to speak on an item that is on the agenda, you can please sign in on the oral communications sheet located at the front of the podium. If you want to wait until that item comes up, you can. Otherwise, you can address it now if you wish. Is there anyone wishing to speak tonight? Okay. Being none, we'll move on to our next item, which is approval of the minutes for...
Can I make a couple of...
Go ahead.
I think this is supposed to say on... Oh, there's no really... Let's see.
Which
what would it
page?
be? Number 5. The last paragraph says the Traffic Commission appointed Commissioner Riley. I think that would have been a pretty cool feat, but it was the Planning Commission.
Had this for a long time.
See, you miss a meeting, and then the Traffic
Well, yeah,
Commission
you're
gets
the
involved.
vice chair, by the way.
And then it says Commissioner Andrade questioned the spelling of John Reekston. I had abstained from that because I wasn't at that meeting that it was even discussed, so I don't believe that it was me. I mean, I guess I could have, but I don't think it was. I don't know who it would have been, but it wasn't me.
Okay. I don't recall either, so... Any other changes or corrections to the minutes? Okay, would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion with the corrections.
Have a second? I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I
No
abstain.
abstain? Okay. Okay, we have consent calendar. We have none. Public hearing. This is a site plan review for Grading Pacific, and it's a site plan review for a structure to be constructed at 3651 Sausalito Street. Go ahead and have a staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Good evening. Here we have a project at 3651 Sausalito Street. It is for Grading Pacific has recently acquired the operation assets of Flow and Inslow Incorporated. This strategic initiative allows Grading Pacific, I'm going to mess this up a couple of times, Grading Pacific to merge the two offices and bring them here to Los Alamitos if this office can get approved tonight. So the what exists today is this office right here, and this would be the new addition to their site. There was really only one kind of minor hiccup on landscaping, but we found a section of the code that allowed for it to be approved as proposed because it wasn't more than 20%, 25% of the expansion of their facilities. So they are adding 5,863 square foot, a two-story office building designed to mimic and match and tie into the original office building. They are in the industrial zone. We're very glad to have them in the city. They've been here a long time. They have the land to do it. They meet the parking requirements, and we recommend approval of this project.
Okay. At this time, I'll open the public hearing, and if the applicant would like to come up and would like to make a presentation or...
Good evening, and thank you for all of your time this evening, particularly those of you who serve the city, on all of us, on a volunteer basis. Grading Pacific is our company. We have been in business since 1971. Founded by my father, and we moved to Los Alamitos in 1992 on the Sausalito location, and we've been exceptionally pleased to be here for all those years. I would make one minor clarification. We have two addresses, 3651 and 3641. The building in question where we'll be expanding is 3641. The reason for two addresses, for the last 10 years since we built that, it's been a leased property, so we needed a separate mailing address. But the parcels are contiguous and we own them both. 2006, we redeveloped the west end of the property there. Formerly, there were a couple of metal buildings that were not particularly attractive, but with the funds we had available, we were able to make use of those. And fortunately, in 2006, things were going well enough that we did a nice remodel of that with the intention that one day or the hopes, I guess, that one day our business would grow enough that we would move into that. And we constructed it at that time with 2,500 square feet of office, and it was constructed in a fashion that we could add another 2,500 square feet on top of that. 5,000 square feet seemed like more office than we would ever need. And here we are 12 years later, and that's about half of what we need with the recent acquisition that we did. So I don't know if you want to go through the site plan or anything like that. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have on that. I would imagine that the major concerns that anybody would have about operating in that little industrial section of the city is what goes on with traffic. Pleased to say that we have adequate space on site, that all of our traffic circulates on site. For those of you who go down to the post office and such, there's often a lot of truck traffic and such, and usually those trucks are hauling lumber. Our trucks haul steel, and you don't see those around there. They're on our site. Also, the parking, we have 108 parking spaces, but we only have about 40 employees. So even on family day, there's ample parking. Security-wise, we love it. We've been there, like I said, since '92. I think the only time the police have been on the premises was to come by and thank us for a donation to the Police Officers Association. So we don't bother anybody, and nobody bothers us. It's kind of what Los Alamitos stands for in a lot of ways. The appearance of the building right now, it's kind of plain. It's just a concrete tilt-up building, and the existing office that we have, very well illustrated there. Typical for what you see, probably above average for a concrete tilt-up, but we're going to do better than that. This is our headquarters. We have 5 other branches ranging from Phoenix to Seattle. This is our company headquarters, and it's kind of our oldest building, so it's time to do something nice to it, and that's our intention. So I'd be happy to answer any questions any of you might have.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for the applicant?
Just a comment. I think it looks terrific.
Great. Okay. Okay, there being no questions, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You bet.
And you can thank our architectural firm. Richard Jimenez from J.R. Miller and Associates is here. That's his fine work that you see there.
Did a nice job.
Right. Okay, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission. Do we have any questions of the staff or the applicant? Nothing? Okay. Any comments?
I made my comment. I mean, at this point, everything looks good to me. I'd make a motion to approve.
I'll
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Looking forward to seeing it.
Okay, item B. Now on to public hearing on item 8B. This is consideration of a conditional use permit to allow a kickboxing fitness classes at 4224 and 4226 Catella in the commercial professional office zone. We have a staff report, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. Thank you, Tom. I Love Kickboxing has filed an application to operate their facilities here in Los Alamitos at 4224 and 4226 Catella Avenue. It's 2 suites located between the Hearing Aid Center and the physical therapy office. It's also, you may know it as the area that has the Subway in it, and also the old Denny's used to be near there, and that Denny's turned into a mattress store. So in order to understand the location and proximity of where that is. Jessica, the applicant is Jessica Barella. She has applied for this application for a national franchise offering boxing classes that combine martial arts, cardio, and resistance training. Classes are available for children and adults. It'll operate with a total of 2 employees. The project does not include any exterior renovations, but they do propose to put some sound attenuation on it. And they'll have a PowerPoint presentation that they're going to give on that. Staff has looked at the location, the use compatibility, and the parking. And staff is very concerned that it would have an impact to future businesses in the same building because of the potential noise it could create if it had amplified music. Staff is conditioned to not have amplified music or speakers in order to mitigate that concern. Staff has also required that there would be no weights placed in the area as well. Therefore, no weights could be dropped if they're not in the place. So these are the things that we kind of worry about when someone shares a slab and shares a wall with neighboring businesses who have a sense of quiet enjoyment of their property. So with those conditions, we do support the application. I know the applicant is going to try to get you to maybe change those conditions, and they'll provide a presentation when you open it up for their comment. With that, I think we have some speakers and some letters and some correspondence that we've received for your review. The physical therapy business has sent in a letter. Is that it, Tom?
Yeah, how many do we have?
I think we just have the physical therapy.
There's also
there's
a letter from,
Verbal Linda.
You have the aquatic therapy of Los Alamitos has, and then there's some letters of support as well
right.
that have been placed at your dais.
Okay.
Aquatic therapy.
Okay. Do you have any questions of staff regarding the presentation? Nothing? Okay. At this time, we'll open the public hearing. We'll invite the applicant to come up and introduce yourself and have your presentation.
Good evening, commissioners, city staff, and residents of Los Alamitos. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you today. My name is Jessica Barello, and I am the franchise owner of the I Love Kickboxing studio in Los Alamitos. I'm originally from Gilroy, California. I graduated from San Jose State University with a basketball scholarship and graduated with a degree in psychology. After college, I became a behavioral specialist where I worked with kids with autism and behavioral disorders. In 2005, I joined the Oakland Police Department as a police officer. In 2010, I lateraled to the Manhattan Beach Police Department, where I am currently a fraud detective and also oversee the health and wellness program there. In May, I will be graduating from the University of San Diego with my master's in law enforcement and professional leadership. Now, Commissioners, I want to address the white elephant in the room and the reason why we are here today. Concerns about soundproofing and excess noise. I assure you this will be addressed, but I would first like to talk about what ilovekickboxing.com is all about. Now, if this video works, I would like to show you a 1-minute video. Is there a way to get it? Did we enable content?
I didn't know there was
Usually we
You're all
just
like
exit
you.
out. Where is the PowerPoint?
That was
Okay, so if you log that on, it should say enable content. Pop up? Okay. All right, well, yeah, just open it up. That's not a problem. All videos are easily found on, if you Google ilovekickboxing.com, there's plenty of videos for you to see. But I'll have some photos in here so you can see what's inside the studio. I can take it from here. All right, so let's skip that. I was first introduced to ilovekickboxing.com in 2015. Not seeing results at my regular gym and needing a stress relief at work, I decided to join the I Love Kickboxing studio in Redondo Beach. First thing I noticed were the instructors were welcoming, passionate, friendly, positive, and professional. The studio was extremely clean, and I noticed results within 2 weeks. This is the actual studio of what I Love Kickboxing Los Alamitos will look like. An ILKB studio is aesthetically pleasing and modern inside and out, inviting and clean. As you can see, our bags are stationary and nothing is hanging from the ceiling. So why I love kickboxing in Los Alamitos? As I worked out at the I Love Kickboxing studio in Redondo Beach, I learned that the studio was a franchise and that anyone can become an owner of a territory. I knew I wanted to become an owner because I enjoyed helping others and believe being fit is important. I decided to choose Los Alamitos specifically because when I first was hired as a police officer in Manhattan Beach, I lived in Long Beach, which is neighboring Los Alamitos. I remember my first experience with the city of Los Alamitos, which was welcoming and clean. I liked that the city had a lot of local businesses and people were always friendly and happy. Los Alamitos stuck out in my mind because the positive experience I had and the knowledge that I could help this community grow closer and healthier. In this slide, you'll see actual members of the Redondo Beach studio that I belong to. All ages, ethnicities, and skill levels are represented. The ilovekickboxing.com program was developed in 2009, and now there are already over 900 franchises within the United States and Canada. The Los Alamitos location is not an independent business. It is an independent studio that has tried and true operational plan by our corporate entity. Everything is pre-planned from building design and requirements to training instructors. There is a foolproof method that has worked for hundreds of studios already across the nation. We are not your average gym. In our studio, class sizes are limited and workouts are done at a member's own pace. The workout is done under the guidance of an instructor in a group environment. Initially, we will have 2 one-hour classes a day, and as membership grows, more classes are added. There are no weights, no workout machines, no kickboxing experience is necessary, and members feel a part of a community and our I Love Kickboxing fitness family. In this slide, you'll see a picture of our pro shop, where we sell shirts, sweatshirts, hats, hand wraps, gloves, and antibacterial spray. Our members consist of any individual that is looking to lose weight, build strength, and stay fit. The core customer for I Love Kickboxing are individuals from the age of 18 to 50, with the majority being female. Here are just some examples of actual body transformations from people that I go to the Redondo Beach studio with. You can see the hard work actually does pay off. There are several benefits and incentives to the I Love Kickboxing franchise program. You can burn up to 900 calories in class, work out with other like-minded community members in a positive, fun, and clean atmosphere. Our social media site helps keep members up to date with community events, diet plans, motivation, and accountability. We help members not only physically but mentally. Members also encourage other members and feel like they are part of a fitness family. We have fitness challenges involving our individual studio and nationwide, where you can win gifts, 3 months of kickboxing, and up to $20,000. So one of our challenges we do with all the studios nationwide is called a 45-day transformation challenge, and the first place winner gets $20,000. An example of an in-studio challenge is something like an ab challenge, where you can win a free month of kickboxing or maybe a free pair of gloves. The most important aspect of I Love Kickboxing is community. I Love Kickboxing benefits the entire community, providing a positive workout experience, promoting physical and mental health, and by building lasting relationships with our community members. We work with charitable organizations. This month, we partnered with an organization providing education to children in Haiti, and as of today, provided over 17,616 days of education. We provide revenue to local businesses. The I Love Kickboxing franchise already works directly with Edible Arrangements, our neighbor, to provide members fruit baskets when they reach a fitness milestone. Also, members can receive discounts at businesses we partner with when they show their ILKB key tag. And I know Mr. Patel from Subway is here, and I'm sure he would be on board with that as well. We are involved in community events such as Race on the Base, local mud runs, did I say that right? And other local events. We are sponsors for local youth programs, as well as being part of the local Chamber of Commerce. We also hire locally. Commissioners, I know you have a concern with sound mitigation, but I want you to know we are doing more soundproofing than even a music studio would ever need. The normal soundproofing requirement for an I Love Kickboxing studio is 58 STC, sound transmission class. An owner from I Love Kickboxing in New Jersey said he used 70 STC and has condos above his studio with no noise complaints. I Love Kickboxing in Los Alamitos will be using soundproofing material with a STC of 97. My architect will go more into this, but I would like to introduce a few people. The first person I'd like to introduce is Vula. She is the manager of I Love Kickboxing in Yorba Linda and has got a few letters from businesses that I would like her to introduce, if that's okay with you.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me? I'm short. So I am the manager. Good evening, everyone. I'm the manager of Yorba Linda's I Love Kickboxing, and I was lucky enough to get some letters from units that are in our shopping center where we've created, that nice foot traffic to kind of support them while they also support us. And I mean, as you can see from the 3 that we've provided, it's nothing but just overwhelming support and tons of enthusiasm of why we've helped them within our community and our business. I love, especially Miss Peggy Juan. I'm not sure if you guys know her, but she's the former mayor of Yorba Linda. And she's actually a member of ours now that she has some extra free time. So she had just, said some great things, and I can read this for you. It is with much enthusiasm that I am writing to recommend the services of I Love Kickboxing business franchise to open in your community. Since opening in 2016, this business has brought a new way of to exercise and healthy living in the city of Yorba Linda. Many in the community have said that the concept is motivating and encouraging, and encourage them to begin a new fitness program that is fun, engaging, and challenging. I Love Kickboxing has been a wonderful welcome addition to our businesses in the area. Since the interest and demand has been great, there's been more foot traffic in the retail center where they are located. I Love Kickboxing seems very respectful of other businesses surrounding them and have not heard any complaints from any other retailers. The business has also supported other local businesses by giving the opportunity to promote their services on their social media accounts and also in studio. I greatly support the business and believe that Los Alamitos will benefit from them being in your city. So just a little thing to touch on, we do have very quiet businesses right next door to us. We have a massage, I guess you could say parlor next door. I'm not really sure how that all goes. Yeah, so massage therapy next door. And then on the other side, we have a very small, quaint invitation shop. And both are very, very quiet. And you can go next door and hear nothing. So what's great is that we are very respectful. We make sure that they actually come in and they're welcome to come and take class whenever they want. And we have such a great relationship. And there's also a lot of females. So in our shopping center, it's majority female-based businesses. So we've just generated so much more foot traffic. And it's been so great because now we can offer our members discounts at their businesses in return for their business as well. So it's a really great community that we've kind of established within our city and even just the units next door. So I guess that's it. Good? Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I need to put my name on?
And then next, I'd like to introduce Kim Walker. She is my manager for I Love Kickboxing. She's actually also a resident of Los Alamitos, and she actually did a decibel study I'd like her to share with you today.
Hello, thank you for having me. I live in Los Al. I've lived here for the last 6 years. I love the city. And I come from the South Bay, but I like it here much better. What I wanted to say was, I think, first off, I Love Kickboxing would be a really good addition because it kind of services community members that aren't serviced by big box gyms or CrossFit or places like that. It services a different kind of clientele. It's boutique fitness. It's very different. And just as I know that the main thing is the sound mitigation, so I took a decibel reader and I went to the Your Belinda I Love Kickboxing. I took a decibel reading in front of the business before class, a decibel reading in front of the business after class started and the music was on, and then a decibel reading in the business next door at the card shop after the business started. So I have that on a flash drive that we'll submit to you for your perusal at a later time. But basically, there was absolutely no noise. I mean, it was just, you couldn't hear the class unless you were standing right in front of the door, and that was just a regular amount of sound. So that's it. That's what I have for you.
And the next person I would like to introduce is Jesse Barbara. He's the architect.
I'm the junior designer for the architect.
Junior designer for the architect. Okay, and he'll talk to you more about sound mitigation, and you should have some flyers.
Yeah,
handouts.
thanks. Thank you. Hi guys, I'm Jesse Barba. I'm the junior designer for Creative Heights, and I was brought here to speak to you about the procedure that we will be doing to help block the noise. We're incorporating white.
Oh, it doesn't work on that. I forgot.
This is actually not it.
Is this
It's a PowerPoint.
It's a PowerPoint?
Yeah.
It's not part of your PowerPoint, is it?
No, it's not that one.
And
I'm sorry.
we have your thumb drive. I guess there's another PowerPoint on
I emailed it last night.
Oh.
They emailed it last night. Yeah.
there? Right, that's on the
It was in the flash
Yeah, it's like that. Oh, it's on her flash drive.
Oh, this one?
Okay. Yeah, let's just look
Sir, this is the right flash drive.
Oh,
But you
there.
can keep that one too, that's the one with the decibel.
Okay.
Should be. I just know it's a PowerPoint. I don't know what he named it. It's a PowerPoint. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. And just click. Oh, okay, cool. So you guys got the intro. I love kickboxing, Attila. So we're addressing it by, we're using a pretty reliable noise control solution, and we're proposing sound transition. We're proposing partition walls that exceed from the floor all the way through the roof, and excuse me, the sound. These walls usually require a minimum 65 STC, which is generally reserved for ultra luxury hotels or multifamily structure, or purpose-built home theaters. So the proposed sound wall will be taken up from the 16 roof sheeting, creating a full envelope on both sides. So, and here's an example of what we'll be doing. It's kind of hard to see on the screen, but if you see the yellow highlights on both sides, that's the area where we will have the extra soundproofing. And additional, we're also going to be doing additional extra step, which is sealing the electrical penetrations with something called seal-tight city pads, which also helps with the sound penetration. So currently, right now, with the existing wall that's there on both sides, it has a STC of 39. With the new addition of these sound walls, it'll be 58 STC additional, totaling 97 STC. So, and the recommended is 65 minimum. So we will surpass the minimum required to block noise. And that's all I have for you guys. Okay. Thanks.
That's pretty much it.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Is there anyone else in the audience wishing to speak on this item? Step up.
Should I sign this?
Let's go ahead and sign in, if you don't mind.
Thank you. My name is John Davies. I'm a licensed physical therapist. I've graduated from physical therapy school in 1985. My first job as a physical therapist was working with the professional athletes. So I worked for the Curlin Job Clinic, which is a very well-known clinic in Southern California. So I treated professional athletes like Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. After I left that clinic in the late 70s, I worked for a rehab hospital where I helped to rehabilitate people that have had strokes, spinal cord injuries, and Parkinson's disease, and that were people that were recovering from joint replacements. So I've been doing physical therapy for over 34 years, and I've been doing aquatic physical therapy for 15 years. I love water therapy. That's my specialty. I'm a certified aquatic physical therapist through my professional organization, which is called the American Physical Therapy Association. So I have a passion for aquatic therapy. I think I was around 63 years old. I had worked for a facility for 10 years, and I got sick, and so I was sick for several weeks. And then when I was ready to return from work, my boss said, well, I had to find somebody to cover for you, so she replaced me, basically. Well, my wife, my dear loving wife here, Raquel, she found an abandoned aquatic indoor pool that was designed by a physical therapist. I mean, the chances of this happening was like amazing. So she approached the landlord with me, and within a few weeks we had signed the contract, and on my 63rd birthday, I opened up my very first business, Aquatic Physical Therapy of Los Alamitos. I love Los Alamitos. My daughter went to school here. We've lived, you know, I love Los Alamitos. It's a great community. And I met the owner, proposed owner. She came to me and she introduced herself. She was very pleasant. And I had been told by the owners of the building that there would be some people coming in, but I really, at that point, I didn't know who they were until I received this public notice that was talking about this applicant that was coming in to start a kickboxing franchise. Well, immediately I was very concerned. And I was concerned because of the noise. And I looked at the building here where we are. I want to make a minor correction. She's going to be between the physical therapy sign and edible arrangements, not between the hearing doctor and the physical therapy. So there's 8 suites in this building, and there are 3 vacant suites. There are 3 vacant suites between that signed physical therapy and edible arrangements. And she's going to be occupying 2 of the 3 vacant suites. When she was very pleasant. She said, John, I want to work with you. I want to make you happy. I said, if you really want to make me happy, you will move closer to edible arrangements. And I'm curious to find out that you already have a relationships with edible arrangements from your video. And I couldn't quite understand why she wasn't willing to move down closer to edible arrangements, and she said I didn't really understand what her reasoning was. But anyway, I am very concerned about the noise. And I'm also concerned about the building. It's a pretty old building. There are holes between the ceiling tiles and the roof. And so I'm concerned about the noise coming over through the ceiling over to my facility. Even if they block it with the sound barrier wall, I'm very concerned about the noise actually coming over the top. That's one of my concerns. And I'm also concerned about the parking issue. There are a few handicap parking slots on the side of edible arrangements and also on the side of subways. There are some handicap slots, but I'm very concerned about the parking issue. Yeah, so, right.
We can't hear you.
Okay, that's fine, but I'll
She can
talk.
come up and address.
That's fine.
Following you. Okay, go
Yeah.
ahead.
So I treat clientele, I treat an elderly population of people primarily. Probably 60% of my people are elderly, Medicare. And then I do treat younger people as well. And I have treated handicapped children that have cerebral palsy. So I treat a wide age range, but it is primarily seniors. And I talk to my seniors and the people that are currently coming in for therapy, and I had them write comments about their concerns. So is it okay if I read some of the letters? Or summarize some of their
Summarize
concerns?
them, I would
Okay,
think.
some of-
Or do you have copies?
I do, and I'll give you all
Enough
the
for-
copies of what they signed. So their concerns were, many of them are frail and elderly. Many of them suffer from anxiety, and they are concerned very much about the noise and the negative impact it's going to have upon their healing process. They're concerned about being able to heal in a timely manner, and they feel that having a kickboxing studio next door will be a very negative impact to their health and well-being. They're concerned about the vibration. I do have people that are hard of hearing. They're concerned about not being able to hear our instructions. They're also, my office staff is also concerned because the business portion of my office is adjacent to that wall. And my treatment table is also adjacent to the wall of the kickboxing studio. So I'm doing quiet manual physical therapy treatments, and quite honestly, a vibrating wall will be very disruptive to their treatment. The other thing, my office manager went online and she looked up the Los Alamitos Municipal Code. I'm considered a professional organization, and within that, I'm permitted to use that building. It says that fitness facilities are not permitted. So I wanted clarification on the city codes, because according to the city code, fitness center would be defined as like they give examples, like a fitness center, gymnasium, athletic club, indoor saunas, indoor sports, or any type of sport-related indoor activity would fall under that criteria. And I believe that kickboxing would be in that category of fitness facility, which according to the code, which would be under health and fitness. So according to this, it says that they're not allowed. So that's another of my concerns.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is there anyone else wishing to address the commission on this item? Go ahead.
Hi, good evening. Robert Espinosa. I'm a resident of Rossmore. I've known Jessica for a little over 3 years, I believe. We both worked in the city of Manhattan Beach. Jessica has attended as many council meetings as I have, so she understands the process of going through to achieve the kind of goals she's trying to achieve. And I think her character shows just from the very beginning when she reached out to the occupants next door and said, I'm willing to work with you, and I want to create this kind of relationship. My experience with Jessica, she's always been very sincere. She's always been very cooperative. She's always been very concerned. And I think that given the opportunity to open her own very first business, just as this gentleman has, I think that you're going to find a very good partnership and relationship that she's going to build in the community, just not with the business community, but with the residents community. And so I just ask that you would consider her application. It sounds as already, though, that community development has with the conditions, has recommended it, and she's gone above and beyond the conditions on her own. And I think that shows the kind of person you're going to get, the kind of quality person you're going to get, and the quality of the business that you're going to get, just based off of her desire to be a good member. So, thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Raquel Davies, and I'm the spouse of John Davis. We've lived in Los Alamitos close to 20 years. My daughter is 27, graduating from medical school, and she profited from being a student in all the elementary schools. What I'm saying in here is that having been a school teacher for 28 years with Long Beach Unified School District, teaching second grade, the gifted and talented, and even in North Long Beach, initially, when I first started as a teacher, my noise has always been, something that we had to kind of like refrain from. I am a teacher at Bircham. Never do we hear any amplified music around the perimeter of the school. How much more with this aging population that we are catering to? You know, they need, I am a spine injury kind of a person too right now. We need peace and quiet. We need to, because of their hard of hearing deficiency, they need to kind of listen to all the instructions to even be able to carry out their exercises. How much more if we have amplified music of how could we ever stand that? My goodness sake, I'm a school teacher, a little noise with 27 school children, all listening to me, trying to deliver Common Core. And with just a slight noise, they get disturbed. How much more these healing people who need healing? The ages of our population, of our clientele, is 65 and above, majority of them. We have to be proponent for this set of people here, the aging population. Beth, look at her, that lady. And I would like you to please consider this, because noise, even in the public schools, we cannot tolerate it, or else we won't be able to deliver the goods and bring up and form the next president of the United States. And also people like you, we educate them, and we need a quiet, conducive environment.
Thank you. Okay. Excuse me. Do you want to say? Go ahead and come on up.
My name is Renee Lloyd, and I am an employee. Started off as an office manager, and then just kind of did everything with John since he opened his facility. And I've known him before he opened the business, and I had my husband and I had a business in Garden Grove prior to helping John. So he had me on board thinking I would know something about running a business. In any case, when we went over this, I'm really impressed with the applicant in the sense that she seems like she knows what she's talking about. I'm impressed to see what they're going to try to do for the soundproofing, that they're going over and above. Our concern was because we're working right against the wall. You probably couldn't see the pictures, but my chair is like with 2 inches from the wall. And personally, I don't know, for the sound, I don't know what the vibration is going to be. All I know is that I'm real sensitive to low sound vibrations, the bass end. I get, I can't go into bars. I have to go outside because I feel it in my chest and things like that. So it makes the working conditions more difficult. I don't know if they addressed any of like the pulsating vibrations or how that moves through walls or anything like that. My concern first, though, also was when I went through the municipal code for zoning. If you looked at the notice for the hearing for today, it said that it was the CO zone where this building is. And so I thought, well, I'll just go look it up and what is permitted and what isn't, what kind of use is permitted and not used. So they have a heading called commercial recreational establishments indoors, which they allow a conditional use permit on those. But those are arcades, bowling alleys, billiards, pool halls, dance halls, ice rinks, laser tag, skating, roller hockey rinks, and theaters. That's what a commercial recreational establishment indoor use would be, and it would be appropriate to apply for a conditional use permit. However, when you look under health fitness facilities, there's this dash line, and that means the use is not allowed. And so I looked in the definition section of the municipal code, that's where I'm reading these descriptions. And it says health, fitness facilities and spas, just like John said, it includes indoor tennis, handball, racquetball, other indoor sports activities, fitness centers, gymnasiums, health and athletic clubs. And it seems to me that kickboxing falls under that category, the category that's not allowed in that particular building because of the zoning. And I like the presentation on the I Love Kickboxing. It sounds like it's a really good facility. It would be welcome in Los Alamitos. I think that the applicant is a good person. She would make a great manager. I just think it needs to be located elsewhere, not in this particular building. It's not coded correctly that I could see on the municipal code. And if it isn't, maybe I'm not seeing something and that the code on the website is not up to date. I wanted to ask the planning commission about that, to clarify it.
Okay.
Okay?
That'll get clarified. Is there anyone else wishing to speak to this item?
Yeah.
Limited? If we can, we'll limit it, the comments to about to 5 minutes, no more than 5 minutes. Okay.
Hi, my name's Elizabeth Hanning. I've been a resident of Rossmore since I was 16. Then I got married and moved over to Rossmore Highlands. Actually, happen to like Rossmore Highlands better than Rossmore, but anyway, I have an illness which is incurable, but I've been going to John now for over a year, and I will continue to go with him, to him for maintenance. I just have one general question. There are 3 spaces, is that correct, between the aquatherapy and, so my question is, why can't the 2 spaces next to the edible arrangements be occupied by the kickboxing? And so then there's another space between the physical therapy and the kickboxing. I don't know, maybe there's an answer for that, I don't know, but that's my question. Okay. I just have to sign my name.
We're going to answer it.
Okay, good, thank you. Just a minute here.
Is there, if I ask a question first?
Let's let them finish. We'll go through the.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm glad I can answer everyone's, the hot question of the night. And like I told you, John, I want to work with you, and I want to be, this is my first business, I want to be a good business, a good neighbor. So guess what? We have a letter that says we can move to the left.
Yes.
So I'd like.
All right.
I just wanted to, I'm a police officer. I've been to thousands of noise complaint calls, and when I met John, I had no idea that, what he really did inside of the therapy studio. So I called up Ben and the landlord, and he said that would be perfectly fine. So we're in the process of getting some new plans and moving to the left, making a nice space. We're still going to soundproof the same. Everything's going to be the same, but just wanted to, I want to bring the community together, not separate us.
Okay.
So hopefully I do that with this move.
Chess.
Is there anyone?
Hi, my name's Gus Angelopoulos. I'm the owner of the I Love Kickboxing in Yorba Linda. And on the walls, the soundproofing, it's nice that she's going to move over because that'll solve a lot of problems. On the soundproofing, the vibration, there's another wall built where the wall is now, the wall that's already there. Basically, they build another wall with all the specs that you see, but it's an inch away from the other wall. And there's a foam padding that goes all the way around the 2x4s, floor, ceiling, sides, everything. So that prevents it from vibrating. And the little 1-inch pocket from the other wall it's not touching another wall, so it's not vibrating. It's completely separated, and it goes all the way to the roof line. So there's no gaps going over on both sides. It's sealed on both sides completely, like you saw in the video there on the slideshows. So there won't be any problem with vibrating. My store there, we've been open. We have not had one complaint. Like you said, we have a massage parlor and a cart shop next to us that are both quiet, and we've never had a problem. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Okay, Okay, seeing none, do we have any questions from the commission to the applicant or to any of the public, any of the speakers?
Obviously, the physical therapy, so that obviously was a big issue. So that being said, that she's now moving over, do we still have this same issue regarding sound? Because I'm not aware of any fitness facility
Right.
that I've ever been to that doesn't play music. I've never seen that. So
Yeah.
to put in a condition that says you can't have amplified music or speakers in a fitness where all fitness clubs have. So moving over sounds like that might actually be the
That
solution to the problem.
Yes, I'm very thankful to Jessica because when she came over and met me the first time, she said that her advisors said that wouldn't be the case, but now
bathroom's already there, so
Correct.
now I need to pay more to build bathrooms.
there's one bathroom, true, Jessica. There's also plumbing and a water source on the in the vacant area next to Edible Arrangements. There is plumbing, there's a water source. I believe there used to be, I don't know if it was a shower.
If you could, Director, let's move this along a little bit.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We have the
But
question.
Thank you.
Yeah, do we have any other questions?
Yeah, I do.
Go ahead.
It's more of a recommendation.
No, do you have, let's,
Why don't you take time to go to your Belinda so you can see what it's like in the other buildings around too, what they hear, so that you'll have a better idea. And that's just a recommendation.
I was planning to do that. I'm working 12-hour days, but I do believe that they're open on the weekends, so I could probably go on a weekend.
all right. Okay, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. We'll bring it back to the commission for any, I guess, any comments. I'll go ahead and start with,
I agree with the comment about the condition of the speakers. I thought the same thing. I've never been to a place to work out that doesn't have speakers. And I mean, that is, the soundproofing that they're doing is more than enough. I've worked for architects and designers for years, and I don't think there's going to be any issue with hearing at the places next door.
The business that I work in deals with sound on a daily basis. I sell generators to the motion picture industry. They're using our generators for film work. If you don't think those have to be quiet. So I'm very familiar with sound and decibel ratings and all of that type of stuff. The soundproofing that they're doing is definitely over and above, and I agree that you would not have it. The other thing is it fully depends on the it's not the amplifier, it's the volume level that you have it at and the speakers that you're using as far as how much bass and everything else. That all can be mitigated with turning the volume down a little bit and having a smaller, subwoofer, if you will. You're still gonna get the sound. The people are still gonna be able to work out to music. And like I said, my thing is that there are other fitness centers in our community that have music. So does that mean, what does that mean? They can't have it either or is it just because somebody didn't complain that they're allowed to have it? I mean, everybody wants to be happy and harmonious, and that's definitely, if I saw that it was gonna create a problem, I would have a different perception of it, but the fact that they've agreed to
do you
move
feel they've
over-
mitigated the noise?
Well, and it seems like the gentleman is actually okay with
Well,
it.
that- no, I
and-
mean,
and- yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I'm just wondering about the addresses. Does there have to be a new public notice because the address changed, if we decide to change the addresses?
Hold on
No,
one second.
please,
Hold
no,
on.
not until, go ahead.
I think we're safe as far as the public hearing, because we go 500 feet from the property. So I think we're safe in that anyone interested would have come to the hearing if they were concerned about this, based on the parcel number as well.
Okay.
All right.
I have no concerns.
Do you have any?
Yeah. So I think it's great that you guys have been able to kind of, work through this as neighbors. The concern that I have is that this, I went and visited the website, and from the conversation that's happened here tonight, it sounds pretty clear that this is a fitness establishment, which are not allowed, not even by CUP in the CO zone.
Correct.
So that's kind of my question for staff on how can we,
Sure, you're probably wondering, why are they in front of you?
I get that they offer classes, but it's a fitness establishment.
And certainly if the commission agrees that maybe we put them in the wrong category, that's completely fine. But in the section under schools, commercial schools, it also includes facilities, institution, conference centers that specialize programs in personal growth development such as fitness. So they're fitness classes. And that's kind of how they've slid in here. We've never used the word gym in the staff report. We've always said classes, because that's what it was explained to us as, and that's how the application was filed. We don't think it's much like a gym in that it doesn't have weights, but it's hard to define what a gym is today, because a gym sometimes is just people grunting and music playing and CrossFit. You know, we've all experienced the CrossFit. We've had the public areas. So that's how they got in on to you.
Okay.
Can I ask one question? Are the, do people don't work out here other than classes, right? People don't come and just do it on their own?
It's 1-hour classes.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I too have the same concern that Commissioner Riley brought up. And I will go back to the way I look at it, addressing, I wondered about the classes. There's no mention of classes anywhere in the definition of school. I don't think classes a school makes. Otherwise, the class we had, I didn't attend, I'll do it online. The class we had on bullying and sexual harassment here doesn't make the city a school. Okay, it was a class, and I think with respect to if you're going to be teaching fitness, I think that's one thing, but we clearly have a separate delineation for health and fitness, and this was generated primarily because of the CrossFit type of a modality for fitness. And the way I viewed the kickboxing website, I also went to CrossFit, and but for the use of weights and but for kickboxing, it's the same. My brother goes to CrossFit. I had dinner with him the other night. I said, "Do you have classes?" "Oh yeah, it's class. It's set up. It's an hour. We have a regimented routine that we go through, you know, and it's throughout the day. We sign up. You decide when you're going to go. It's essentially this, without trying to draw too much of a comparison. The idea is that it is fitness, which is great, and there are different modalities to that fitness, in my opinion. And that is, you know, in this case, it's kickboxing. CrossFit is the utilization of weights, and I'm sure there are other. I'm sure you have the different types of martial arts and stuff like that. That would be the same type of a fitness modality, and we pretty well dealt with that earlier, and we confined those areas to the health and fitness facilities. Not necessarily a spa, not necessarily a gym, but they're a facility that we had the definition read to us, and it's in there what health and fitness is. And to me, this falls into that. And the calling it a school because they conduct a class, I think is a stretch, pretty big stretch. And they are allowed in the city, but they're allowed by CUP in our CG zone and in the LI zone that we have. So it's not like you can't come into the city, you just have to find space in either of those zones, from my opinion. I think there's a reason for that. When you have a commercial office, it's not necessarily a physical therapy place. It could very well be an attorney's office, could very well be an accounting office. And I think that, well, I'm not the expert on sound attenuation. I'll defer to my colleague up here on that. I'll go with the notion that they can mitigate the noise. My problem is that it's not an approved use in this zone, and I think it's a clear reading. I mean, I refer you to page 375 in our book, which is table 2.04. And it does lay out, under Education, Public Assembly, and Recreation, health, fitness, facilities, and spas. And I think that's what this is. It's been presented to us tonight as it's all about fitness, and
But I don't think it's that clear, obviously, if that's the definition that you read, but staff has a different interpretation of that. So it's
Well-
apparently not as clear as you might think that it is, if staff has taken a look at it and determined that, that it would suffice based on their definition and their interpretation
Right.
of the definition.
I think we have a definition of health and fitness.
Well, he just.
You do.
You do.
We do?
But
And what is it?
Health fitness
Can we-
means fitness centers, gyms, health and athletic clubs, including indoor sauna, spa, or hot tub facilities, indoor tennis, handball, racquetball, and other indoor sports activities. So the question is,
Does
now
that
that you've
fall-
learned about their business, what are they closest to? Closest to the definition that we placed in the staff report, or closer to what Art is speaking?
Is it a school or is it a health and fitness?
That's the quandary.
So that's where we're at. So,
because you do have to look at it as, this is, in other words, this isn't something that, although people may do it on their own, individually, but as far as, it's more of a business where you would look at saying, okay, these people are coming in for a class to actually be educated, to learn how to do this skill of keeping themselves healthy or doing it. It's not something they could necessarily do on their own. They could go on YouTube or they could do different things. But it's a class where you have a professional instructor that's actually doing a class and teaching them how to take care of their bodies, be healthy, nutrition. I mean, there's other aspects to it, mind, body, soul, all of that thing. And
As a
having
school.
somebody teaching you how to
so
do
when
that.
when would they graduate from the school?
That depends. I don't know if they offer certificates.
have
They
a-
definitely.
well, I guess-
They definitely offered motivational things where they send things for hitting certain levels. They have, so yes, they do offer incentives for getting.
Well, I think, okay,
I'm
Right here.
putting it out there as
Yeah, yeah,
as such.
yeah.
The staff obviously saw a different.
If this were, if this were a CrossFit, would it be different?
I don't know, because it depends on how the CrossFit operated, but I mean,
Well,
CrossFits run classes as well.
They don't.
If they have free weights and the condition is that they're not allowed to have free weights.
Well,
then-
we've conditioned that. I don't understand the reason.
Correct.
I don't understand the reasoning for that, except
Part of it
that
was
it would,
probably
except
noise.
that it would prohibit a CrossFit.
Well, it
type
becomes a
use.
gym at that point as well.
I don't know what a gym is. I've heard of boxing gyms, Gold's Gym, you know, where all they do is boxing.
No, they don't. They have weights.
I was just,
Go ahead.
I'd be curious to see what Wendy has anything to say, and then maybe we could.
Okay.
No.
All right, go
No,
ahead.
I'm just listening to you.
Okay.
All right.
I have no issues with it.
Okay.
I'm good with making a motion to approve the CUP with the address change and striking the condition about the sound. I'd like to make that motion.
I'll second that.
I'll second it.
Could I say something
Any
real quick?
discussion? Go ahead.
Is this soundproofing all conditioned?
Yes.
Okay.
And does it include the
in their
ceiling?
application.
And does it include the ceiling?
Yes.
It includes that they go, one of the concerns is that these walls go up to the lower ceiling.
They only go up to, yeah, they only go 8 feet,
Correct.
right?
And that's why I did an inspection myself. Required it to go, and they said it was going all the way up to the rafters.
He mentioned that tonight.
And if you want to certify that that's in there, you can add that language tonight, but I think it's in there.
Is there a
I think
partition wall?
I believe I saw it in there.
Are there
Above the
partition walls
ceiling
between,
wall.
the offices upstairs, up in the attic space?
There's no occupied mezzanine or.
No. Are there firewalls or
No, they're
between
not.
each suite?
No.
So once you're in the attic space, you can go from one end of that building to the
The
other.
fire could go all the way through, and that's why we put the requirement that the new walls go all the way up.
And with the sound attenuation from floor to the ceiling.
Correct.
Ceiling joist, not the ceiling.
That's
This-
conditioned.
He said he was going to put a barrier all the way around to the ceiling,
All right.
to the roof, yeah.
I'll find the condition.
It's conditioned.
I saw
Right,
it.
number 17.
I
The
saw it.
common tenant walls shall receive additional noise dampening insulation. Soundproofing of common walls shall be shown on the tenant improvement plan submitted for plan check, and permits shall extend to the roof line beyond the existing T-bar ceiling.
Okay.
I just didn't think T-bar ceiling was enough.
Right.
Fine. Okay, any other discussion?
I'm good with it.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Aye.
Opposed.
Opposed? Okay, passes 4-2. Okay.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Okay.
Pardon me?
I'm giving you.
Which is item
There won't
C.
be any.
Okay.
Hey.
You're going to be up on this one. I got a conflict.
Oh, yeah.
On item C. Okay, we'll move on to item 8C. This is a site plan review for 4 units, 1, 2, 3, 4, excuse me, 5 units on Walnut. I do have a conflict of interest on this, so I have an interest in real estate within 500 feet. So I will
It's right here.
recuse myself. Hmm?
Let's wait for everybody to clear.
Well, we'll let him get out. That way he can.
John's going to take over.
John will have to take over the reins.
So Art gets a
All right.
I present.
Yeah.
Ready.
I'm just waiting for.
Oh, right.
No, he's like this. He's like this. La 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 la. I'm not listening to you.
All right. Do we have a staff report?
All right. Vice Chair Riley and members of the Planning Commission. Site plan review 1501. We should probably close that. Okay. Is the consideration of modifications to a site plan review for a previously approved 5-unit residential condominium project that's at now 5 addresses, 10742 through 10750 Walnut Street, the even numbers. And it's in the multifamily zoning district. The applicant's here with us tonight, Olympia Stepakis. And the Planning Commission originally approved this 5-unit condominium project in May 27th, 2015, in accordance with the plans that were submitted at that time. And since that time, the developer and the applicant has made field changes without obtaining prior approvals from staff or the commission. The applicant's representative sought administrative approval for these changes from the director, and the applicant's representative was told that if applied for, the request for these field changes would be denied by staff. And that was primarily the PVC fencing. We felt like it looked much different than what was presented to the commission as a wood fence before. The applicant has submitted an application to consider these modifications, and there's a few of them. I should have gone forward here.
Maybe we work on some soundproofing.
Yeah, there we go. So I have a list of each one that was, each of the changes, and you can request me to look at different ones there. During the time period that the applicant's representative prepared to submit the modification application, the code enforcement staff did confirm that the owner of the project has allowed residents to move into the project without there being a certificate of occupancy. And when they received tickets and notice of violations, they moved in the rest of the people during that time period. And so there's more residents in the units at that time. I mean now. So staff recommends that the public hearing be opened, and if appropriate, reject or accept some or all of the modifications, and then direct the city attorney to draft the appropriate resolution.
All right. Is the applicant here? Would they like to come forward and give a?
First, open the public
Oh,
hearing.
yeah. Sorry, I'm a little rusty. So, yeah, I'll open the public hearing, ask the applicant to come forward, and then we'll hear anyone else that wants to speak on the item.
We're going to do this in a little bit different order. I'm not the applicant. I was supervising the building of the building, the construction. The applicant is my mother-in-law, Olympia. Steve Stepakis is her son. He's going to speak after me. I'm just bringing up examples of, I'm addressing the vinyl fence.
Sure. You're speaking on behalf of the applicant.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
So, my name is Nick Zambukelis. I live in Huntington Beach. I own property and business in the city. I've been around the city since 1969. My mother had a business, so we're very invested in the city. We really like being in Los Alamitos. I'd consider it my hometown because I'm here all the time and pretty much grew up here. I've got some handouts here, if you guys don't mind. So what they're handing out is there's some pictures there that show you a couple pictures of a typical wood picket fence in disrepair in the city. And it's not hard to drive around the city and find quite a few examples of dilapidated picket fences. There was a comment made, and Stephen will address why we make these choices in general with our buildings. There was a comment made that PVC fencing breaks, and what I have on your left, my right, is a piece of fence that I actually removed from the property that we're going to be developing very soon down on Farquhar, and that's the typical vinyl fence section that you'd buy from Home Depot. It runs about $10 a linear foot, plus installation of probably another $5 to $6 a linear foot. It's self-installed. The fence on your right is a sample of, and it's all crooked because there's nothing holding it together really, but that's an example of the fence that we use and we've used on previous projects. The material is much thicker. It's not glued. These pieces are glued. It's all routed in, assembled. The posts are embedded in rebar, with rebar into the concrete and filled with concrete. It's a very, very strong, stable fence that's proven to last many, many years with no maintenance, no painting, no rotting, no termites, no splinters. It's bulletproof. It's the way to go. On the pictures you have there, I have some example of a 17-year-old fence that we put in a project we built about 17 years ago. And that fence hasn't been maintained at all. I don't think they've ever even cleaned it. And if you go look at it, it's still sturdy and strong. The color is still in the material. The homeowners appreciate it because it lowers their cost of maintenance and their association dues. And it's just a great way to go. I don't see why anybody would choose wood over a superior fence material. The other thing you have is a ASTM report and a material data sheet on the vinyl. Now, in order to sell vinyl fencing in California, you have to meet the minimal requirements for PVC fencing. And you can see on the inferior product, it's very thin, it's glued together, it's not stable at all. On the superior product, which I did some quick price checking, from Home Depot, you can buy this fence right here for about $10 a linear foot, and then plus installation. The wood is about $10 a linear foot plus installation. This fence cost us $45 a linear foot. So for anybody to make a comment that we're installing a lesser material or an inferior material is just flat out wrong. We opt to spend more money where it counts, where we have a better solution whenever we can find it, and do a better job for any residents, so we have a product that looks good for years to come in the city, that we don't have to worry about people maintaining it and it becoming dilapidated. So that's why we make these choices. With that, if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them, but we have another speaker right after me, so. All right, thank you.
Thanks. Is there anybody else who would like to come up and speak on this item?
Good evening. My name is John Durante. I'm a masonry contractor, been contracting 40-some years, building walls all my life. These are two samples of block here that we used on the project. One's a split face, and the other one's a smooth block. split face is manufactured from smooth block. They just crack them in half and they call them split face. The block on the left is your smooth face. It sells for about $1.14 or something like that. Block on the right here is a split face. It sells for about $4 and change. Big difference in price. More labor to do the split face, less labor to do the smooth face. Smooth face, every time the ground shakes, which we get a lot of earthquakes, cracks. You put stucco over the smooth face, you'll see cracks in it. Gotta go back and try to patch it. So it's real expensive. So to take a smooth block, put stucco on it, it's gonna cost you about another $1 square foot. $1 something. Where the split face, you put it in once, if it cracks at all, you won't see it. If it gets graffitied on the stucco, and even if you put graffiti, it still doesn't work. I've tried it lots of times. You still have to go over there and do it. You have to repaint the wall. Where on split face, if you get graffiti, you just sandblast it. And it looks the same. So the price difference is almost twice the difference between the smooth and the split face. All the projects I do now are basically split face. We get away from the smooth face unless the contractor wants to save money. He'll go with the smooth face because it's cheaper. And it costs more labor to do the split face and laying it than it does the smooth face. He changed it from split to smooth, from smooth to split. That was an upgrade, 100%. Any questions? Good. Thank you. Thank you.
This is in regards to the rafters, why we put the fascia on there for the rain gutters. And by the way, my name is Michael Hartz. 30 years of contracting with Envision Roofing. And it is to strengthen the rafter tails and also for the rain gutters to keep them without moving, fluctuating back and forth. If you go outside here, you can see where it's rotting the tails. And with that fascia being on there, it protects the tails. And then with the high winds, if you don't have a backing, it will blow the rain gutter completely off the roof. That's all I have to say on that.
By the way, Mike was the contractor who did the roof, and he's going to do the contracting on adding the gutters. Steve Stepakis, I'm here to help represent my mom, 86 years old. She's right there. If you have any questions later, she's there for you. Single mother, raised 4 kids. Los Alamitos, we all went to Los Alamitos schools from kindergarten to high school and then to college. 2 of us married 2 other kids that went through Los Alamitos schools from the start, high school, went on to college. My sister, Allison Stepakis, Dr. Allison Stepakis, operates a dental business in Los Alamitos for 6 years in a building that she and her husband built. They own it. My brother-in-law, Nick, and I have built in Los Alamitos for 20 years. And we have a sincere commitment to doing a quality project that lasts. Every decision we make is to choose the best materials and what's best for that project. Those same materials that you're questioning tonight, the vinyl fencing and the split face block, were used on a building on Green that Nick built that won the Building of the Year award in the R3 district. Obviously, somebody likes those materials and that fencing. I'm going to go over briefly some of the changes that were made. The 3 windows that were added let some needed light in the kitchen areas. The step in the front of the unit that's not there, it's not there because it's not necessary. There's no reason to create a step when the grade dictates you don't need a step. The same answer in the curb around the open space. It's just not necessary. It's more concrete. The window shutters will be added when the rest of the revisions are addressed. Mike Hart's, the roofer, addressed the fascia. It's added to adequately support the gutters that are, of course, required by the WQMPs, required by the plans. Staff report is in error when it characterizes the materials as inferior. We've shown that each of these choices is superior in all ways for this project. I won't address the comments that staff calls public comments. Of course, they're not from the public. They're from Commissioner Member Gross. She'll be able to represent herself. We understand these revisions should have been approved with staff before being implemented. No question. We've been building for 20 years in the city. All of these type of revisions were routinely approved at the administrative level. We incorrectly assumed that that would continue, and we apologize for that. But we're here to ask for your help tonight. We're asking you to approve all these revisions, not because we're asking, not because you like us, not just because they're right for the project. Those are the right decisions. And I think that you'll end up agreeing that the right decision for the neighborhood is to approve the changes that were made because they're best for the project and the neighborhood. Thank you.
Would anybody else like to speak on this item?
Hi, my name is Shelley Myers, and I work with, I'm sorry, my name is Shelley Myers, and I've been living in the city of Cypress for, oh my God, the city of Los Alamitos for over 40 years. And I currently work with the city of Cypress, sorry about that. And obviously you know that we're doing a lot of renovations and building. So I'm very particular with my community, and I like to see what's going on here too. And so I take time to go around and look at the developments, and I actually live at the one on Green Street, and we definitely have that fencing, and it's been 17 years, and it's definitely held up. So I'm super happy with what Nick built, and I just wanted to say I'm super proud of my house. And I'm super nervous. Sorry.
Anybody else? All right, seeing no one come forward, I'm going to close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission. Questions, comments for staff?
I have a question, and I guess it'd be for either one of you. So, I'll just leave it at a question for now. If these materials are superior, I get that, and they are. Why were they not put into the plans the first time around? Because you made it sound like you were doing these upgrades because it's better for the project, and I get it, but I don't understand why, if you weren't afraid to spend the money in the beginning, why that wasn't something that was addressed, the split-face block, for instance, or the fencing. Why wasn't that brought up before? Because for me, it's not the materials and some of the things that were changed. It's kind of how it was done. So it really hasn't, I mean, I get it. I prefer the vinyl fencing. I think it lasts longer. I think it looks better longer. I love split-face block over stucco block for the very reason that it cracks and it doesn't look good over time. It peels and all that other stuff. But that wasn't it. So how come that wasn't put in the first go-around? Is my question, I guess.
That's a good question. There's 1,000 details in any set of plans, and details are missed. There could have been an interpretation that was close enough to a wood picket fence. Staff didn't feel that. We felt like it was close enough. Next time we'll know. I understand that you want to protect the process. You can't have people just doing what they want willy-nilly. But that is the way it worked in the last 20 years. Things have changed, I understand. you can't catch all the details. Some of it just has to be left to staff, and I hope you don't punish that project, punish the project because of the mistakes that we made in the process. We admit them. We should have come to you first. If we had done that, I don't think we'd be here tonight.
We wouldn't.
But we made a mistake. We operated like we had for the last 20 years. We didn't realize, things had changed, and we understand that.
Okay, thanks.
Brittany, anyone else?
First questions for our attorney. We have not approved, or I should say the city does not have them with a certificate of occupancy, and we've got people occupying 5 units. Even though they were told not to, they continue to allow people just to move in. And not all at once, because I saw them trickling, so they had plenty of time to stop the movement of people. We don't have inspection of these units as a sign off on the inside or anything else. Where does the city stand in liability should something go wrong and a tenant is injured?
Well, the city certainly has exposure for that. However, the city can also take steps, should that be determined that that's the direction the city wants to go in, to force the occupants to be removed because, not forcibly removed, but force them to move out until the C of O is issued, because it's against the law for someone to live there without a C of O.
And that's a big concern. This was not a matter of, if you look at the dates on the letters, they were notified in advance of these people as they were trying to move in, and they continued to allow them to move in, which shows a direct disregard for how we operate in our city and the safety of those that are living there. When you allow them to move in, one without a certificate of occupancy, and knowing that the inspection for safety hasn't been completed, that would concern me, and if I was occupying a unit, I wouldn't be real happy about right now. It still says the same, that you added windows, you changed curbs, you did things that you wanted to do to improve things, but did you come to the staff and say, these are the improvements we want to make and we want to do? Do you do them on your own, or do you work with the city? We should hope that you work with the city first and foremost and always. I know you have a building on Farquhar that you're wanting to bring back to us, and that concerns me, because are you willing to work with the city, or are you going to do a building and then just change it your way and end up right back in the same pickle that you are right now with 5 occupied buildings and potentially 5 tenants having to move out to wait till you get the certificate of occupancy? That is a problem. If you want to say the public, these are not just things that I saw, but these were things that were brought to me. Anytime a project comes to this particular commission, I take it seriously. I will drive it, I will go watch it be built, and I will check to make sure do things fit the way that we had hoped. I can tell you a building that we said we'd kind of like something to it look better. We didn't tell them to be exactly how to do anything, but we expressed our concern. They worked with the staff, and they put together a beautiful structure that I think any commissioner, as they go by, is very proud of that building now, because that occupant worked with the city and it came out nice. When you start doing things and you just assume it's okay, that's not working with our staff here. And we have a hardworking staff, and we have a beautiful city. Now, you talk about the fence next door. You did damage to it when you were putting up the block wall. That was probably going to happen. I'm not saying it wasn't. The word here, the applicant tells staff that they have negotiated. The fact that you tell me something does me no good, because you have things that you've been doing. We've told you don't move in, and you guys continue to let occupants move in, and you're telling me that the people next door are okay with this. If I was a good neighbor policy, I'd said, well, I can't find the exact fence that I destroyed. And even though your fence was not the best and there were pieces missing, as a good neighbor, I'm replacing that front fence. Not a section, the front fence. Now you've got a section that looks like one thing and you have all these bits and pieces going down. That's just poor neighborhood. That you're telling me that you want to be a quality builder, that's not a quality builder. And you sit here and say, that tells us, sorry, telling me it's nothing. We can tell me whatever you want. You can tell me that they said we don't want you to even put in that piece. I mean, that's just word. The vinyl fencing, we'll see how that one goes. The unit, you have cement. You have a 2-foot huge chunk right in the middle of the patio. No cement. This can't be signed off yet. But they've got cement here, dirt here, cement here. And all I saw was gopher coming up. Maybe that's the plan, to have the gophers come up. I don't know. But it's terrible. And then when you look up, you have a drain coming out right over the air conditioner. Well, that's going to be exciting. Let it come down, let the air conditioner splash the people as they walk up to the door.
I got it.
Then you have plants that you hope to grow up and around these air conditioners, which will be tore out by the people there or aren't going to be, or dead because of the heat from the air conditioner. I know I've tried to grow plants up next to my air conditioner. It didn't work. The city has required other units to put up wood fencing around air conditioners so it is more appeasable from the street level, that you don't see that. That was what we believed, and I believed was going to happen. And then you put plants up around the one on the west end of the building. Those plants will come down when they have to go work on that air conditioner. So it's just a matter of time before those come down. I mean, I have concerns, yes. But you look at my concerns and you've occupied this building and yet you haven't even finished it. It's like saying, well, let's put people in, we'll just work around them. I'm sorry, in the landscaping, you did finally weed it. Those weeds will be back because you didn't put a mat down to prevent weeds from coming up. And I watched them doing it, wonder how they were going to do this. And I see throughout walking through this town, which I walk and ride my bike all over these towns, I can tell you the people who have the landscaping that had put down the mats to help prevent the weeds from coming up, and then they put the nice ergonomic plants on. And then in the parkways, you put plants that are going to grow up over 3 feet or 2 feet, which will be in violation of our code because you have to be able to see from the driveways out, and you can't because these plants are the ones that are going to get tall. Had you put them somewhere else, it would work, but where you put them, they're going to block. So those are some of my issues. Anybody else have any?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest issue was the occupancy. I mean, the fact that you were told you don't have certificate of occupancy and you continue to move people in after, it's mind-boggling to me. You guys have been building, and you always say, you know, we've been building in this city for 20 years. I mean, I think pretty much everybody knows you can't move into a building without a certificate of occupancy. I mean, the fence, I mean, I'm fine with those changes. I think they're very nice. The 3 windows that were added, I think anybody knows if you're gonna add a window to a building, you need to go to the city. That's not something, I could see where the fence, okay, maybe it looks like what was on the drawing, different material. The windows, I mean, you guys have been doing this a long time. That's all I have.
All right. Anybody else?
Mayor? A portrait has been painted tonight that this is about fence, rafters, and blocks. It isn't. It's about an applicant implementing what they promised to implement. This is about an applicant putting those words on their plans. We didn't invent the plans. Staff did not put the word wood fence on the plans. Staff did not put the type of wall. They submitted these to the city. We trusted that they would implement them. That way, they did not. I don't want the public to think that staff has nitpicked this project. This applicant has not been able to implement their own plans, whether it's because they're unreadable or because they didn't put a lot of thought into them before they applied. But this is what was presented to the Planning Commission, maybe with not a lot of thought by the applicant, maybe not a lot of thought of the three parties that are playing applicant when it's convenient for them to take responsibility
Come on.
or to brush
Come
the
on.
responsibility
Why,
off on
why you
others.
allow this editorializing right now? That's completely
Hey,
not
hold up on your
appropriate.
comments, please.
But staff is not nitpicking the materials. Staff has continually tried to implement the plans that the applicant applied for and the commission approved.
Mr. Mendoza, that was my point at the very beginning of this whole thing. It is not about the materials. It's about the process that was taken and how they went about it. You could define it as sneaky, if you will, if you want to label it. And it has nothing to do with the materials and more about not following the process, really. And actually, to the degree of not following the process and being told what to do for the process and still not following, that's the part for me that is hard to get my hands around at the moment. Materials are irrelevant at this point for me. So
You really need to let me respond to this.
yeah,
Please.
Yeah, actually, I'd like to hear some responses, especially about the occupancy, because that's a huge thing. And the whole process, the fact that we're even at this point right now is pretty disappointing. And I don't think it's because staff went and made a bunch of changes. They just expected you to implement what you presented.
Absolutely. We've admitted that we fell down in the process, no question about it. But making the decision to go with this fence rather than wood or this block versus that, I don't think anybody's questioning that. And this is part of the process. This planning hearing, staff didn't feel comfortable approving it. I'm okay with that. We're following the process. Other than the occupancy issue, we are following your process right now. We asked staff for the approval. We didn't get it earlier, but we're in the process right now, no question. And I think the decision should be limited to, as hard as it is, limited to making the best decision for that process. Ms. Gross, I'm going to go over some of your ideas here. The fence that got broken was on our property and attached to an existing fence that was completely on our property, and it was attached illegally. That fence was so old and so brittle that there was no way to take it apart without having it break. There's no way we could have matched it, as you said, but why would we be responsible to replace their whole fence across? They came to an agreement, and I don't see any reason not to respect that agreement between two property owners and have the city get in between. You talk about a drain from the bottom of a deck. That's not a drain, it's a vent. I think Mr. Zambikelis has written responses to this. Maybe you didn't see them, maybe they weren't forwarded, I don't know. But he responded to every one of your concerns. The landscaping around the AC will grow. On the plans, just correct me if I'm wrong, did it say put a wood fence around the AC?
It was brought up by me.
Was it on the plans?
I brought it up at the thing that I wanted, and you guys
I understand, but it wasn't on the plans, so you
Neither was
can't
everything else
ask
you
us to
added.
do something on the plan.
Neither were many of the things that you changed.
We didn't change the landscape around the AC. There was never a fence
You
around
changed
there.
other things.
Absolutely, I admit that. You talk about the weeds. I've done a few buildings, I've done some landscaping. The mat doesn't work. Weeds are gonna come up, okay? You're gonna weed it, you can't stop that. There's ground cover there. As they come up, you weed them, then they'll come up again, you'll weed it again. Eventually, they stop. Let me address the occupancy. The timing that Mr. Mendoza has put in the staff report is wrong. My mother had a phone conversation with Mr. Mendoza. She says, look, I want to get the building rented. At no time in that conversation did he say, don't put tenants in. And he could have said that at any time. He didn't. You never talked to my mom?
Never. Tom's done every conversation.
I think it's irrelevant anyways to have him put the onus on the director
No, I'm just
for
saying.
for an occupancy
Well,
permit.
when you're
You very
talking-
well know that it needs to be an occupancy permit. I don't think it's fair to be blaming somebody else.
No, I'm saying that
That's what you're doing. You're blaming somebody else for your actions.
I'm stating a fact that she's an 86-year-old woman. You've got to recognize who's had a stroke. You've got to recognize who you're talking to, whoever it was. Maybe she didn't talk to Mr. Mendoza. Maybe it was Mr. Oliver. I don't know. But she has her limitations, okay?
Again, you're passing the blame from one person to the other.
No,
Amongst your mix.
it's her fault. It was her decision.
Then just admit that you.
I own it.
Fault
We own it.
and stop arguing.
Well, the argument is not to whether she did it or not. The argument is to timing. He said that that they got moved in after he was noticed. 3 or 4 of those tenants were already in that weekend. He gave my brother-in-law a call on Sunday morning or Saturday morning. They were already in there. He says they weren't. They were already in there. If I need to, I'll prove it. But just because this man said they were doesn't make it true. And I apologize for the occupancy. I wish it would never have happened. It just happened. It was a mistake. She admits it. But I hope we can move on from that.
I watched them occupy. They were not all 4 at once. I saw one move in. I addressed it to Steve Mendoza, my concern. And then suddenly, a week later, another one moved in. The last one was here recently after notices were hung on the door. I saw a person walk up to it, get it, read that, laugh, and just shrug their shoulders and walked off. The other one, so 4 of them moved in, but they didn't move in a close proximity. One moved in, about a week and a half later, another one moved in, nobody moved in for a bit, and then somebody moved in. So there was a lot of time, and I'm looking at the dates on these letters and when I saw the movement going, and talked with the neighbor across the street if she knew if they were moving in. So to sit here and want to throw blame, I can tell you that I already contacted Steve. And I already know, looking at the dates on these letters, what was going on.
Is it
And if you're
possible
telling
that
me
you
that
weren't
your
there when
mother,
they moved it in? Is it possible that they moved in and you weren't watching when they first moved in?
no,
Is
I
that
watched
possible?
everything.
Okay.
I'm very observant in my area.
All right.
I'm concerned also, as I said, and I'd like to get something from the attorney about the liability for us because there is no certificate of occupancy and we have not been in to evaluate the safety of these places at this time.
Do you want to comment right now? I think the fact that there's exposure, we should talk about the.
No.
Okay.
You need to look into that, yes.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of information exchanged here tonight, and there's some different points of view, right? I think what we need to consider at this point is what's the right path forward, and what is the best way to resolve this. And I guess my question for the attorney would be, we do have people occupying a building or residences that don't have a CO. What happens in that case, right? Yeah.
I mean, I think that the item that's before you is that the developer has requested a modification. So I think the first thing to decide is whether or not any of the changes are acceptable to the planning commission. It may be that some are and some aren't. And then in that case, I believe that they would be able to appeal to the city council any of the conditions that were not appropriate. And then as far as enforcement of the lack of C of O, that would be something that staff would handle as far as an enforcement issue.
Okay.
And code enforcement has begun. They have issued notice of violations and citations to all 5 units, and they're monitoring it.
And
Okay.
we've responded to code enforcement.
There was completely filled, yeah.
All right,
So we should take the first step first?
I think we want to bring it back to the item at hand here, right? There's a lot of things that got us to this point. The certificate of occupancy is an enforcement issue. It's not one of the items that we're discussing tonight. It's part of how things got to where we're at, but not necessarily what we're deciding tonight, right? So we have these outstanding issues of compliance that the city has brought forward, that staff has brought forward, variations from the plans, and I think we should probably just look at these specific items, make determinations on whether we approve of them or whether we do not approve of them, or if we want modifications, and stick to the list here. And because that really is what's before us. There's a lot of other history and information going on here, but that'll have to be saved for another day. So we've got these discussion items. Condition number 43, the WQMP has not been recorded at the Orange County Clerk Recorder.
You may have done that today.
Has that been satisfied?
Did you do it today?
I didn't.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's approved, it's done, it just needs to be recorded. But that's, I'm sorry. It's approved. It's approved. The condition says record it, and that's for a C of O or a TC of O. It doesn't, that WQMP condition doesn't have anything to do with approving the changes of the building.
It's just one of our discussion items that I'm bringing up here tonight.
Right.
And you're saying that, am I understanding right, that can't be recorded until you have a certificate of occupancy?
No, it's done. It's been approved by the city. There was a little bit of back and forth. I'll have to just pick it up and take it and record it at the county and bring Tom back a copy that shows it's recorded.
Okay.
Probably do that tomorrow.
That's fine. So I'm comfortable with that.
I'm comfortable with that.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
Tom, I guess just,
Yeah,
it has
I
been
mean,
approved, it's approved and, right?
It's approved by the city, it just has to be recorded
Okay.
before we get a C of O
Okay.
at all.
And I guess the same thing would go for the next item, the final track map is not been
That's a
recorded.
little different. Do you have an answer to that?
Oh, before we move on, I was just going to
No.
say for a clear record, I know you said you're comfortable with it, but comfortable with leaving it the condition as is, correct? Not allowing a modification to that condition?
It just needs to be recorded.
Yes.
It needs
Yeah,
to be
okay,
recorded.
yeah.
Correct.
Before
Yes.
C of O.
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Just
So,
to clarify.
so that needs to be satisfied, so does the final track map. I believe that
Yeah, I
needs
mean,
to be
that-
satisfied.
It's supposed to be recorded before the C of O as well.
Which is before occupancy.
Yeah, before occupancy, right, yeah.
Okay, so some things are happening out of order here, but, so those conditions will stand. Those conditions need to be satisfied. The next item is a site plan, wood fence, substituted with PVC. I'm okay with the PVC?
I'm okay with the
Okay.
PVC.
I am too.
Okay, so we can substitute that. Plans indicate exposed rafter tails on elevations, fascia board's been installed.
Okay.
You
I'm
missed
okay
one.
with that.
You missed, there's one
Missed
above it, sorry, it doesn't, not that it.
Is there?
But, well.
Oh,
the
wood cap.
Um,
What railings is that? Is that on the ones on the?
It's on the balconies.
Up
The-
here, right here, there was supposed to be wood on top.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does anyone have thoughts, opinions
I-
on that?
Okay.
I'm fine with it, not having them.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can, that's okay without the wood cap.
Without the wood cap.
Exposed rafter tails, substituted for fascia boards.
Okay.
I'm fine with it.
I am as well.
Yeah.
Wendy? Okay. Landscaping should block mechanical equipment. The AC side setback not clearly screened from view and from right of way. I believe that needs to be corrected.
And I'm wondering, if they do that with putting up a wood fencing, will that bring in enough to go around and take care of that on the AC?
Well, the commission is certainly welcome to change the conditions. at this
Yeah,
point.
but do you know if they did the wood, or if they did something other than the plant, would that also get that little area where
It would, you've seen it on some of the
Yeah.
properties on Reagan.
well, I see it on theirs too.
The code says either some kind of, shielding like wood or something, or plants is what it says in the code. And The problem is, it's going to be a while, and they are a little bit close to the air conditioners. I'm wondering if it'll work.
The plants won't work.
I
I
don't
already
know.
tried that. Been there, done that
Okay.
one. Maybe they could use something like that type of PVC stuff around it in such a way that they could fix the air conditioner look on the 5 air conditioners, at the same time take care of the wiring and that, so that it's all enclosed, and it would actually come out looking better.
Here's the thing for me. Let me just throw this in. For me, I don't particularly like bringing attention to something. Putting a big white fence around it kind of draws attention to that area where you know that there's something behind it, like pool equipment or AC.
You won't miss the air conditioner either.
That is correct. Something needs to block it. I'm not saying it needs to be empty. I would say I prefer landscaping. The other thing about putting a fence around it is you have to do it in a way that there's enough room around it so that if service does need to be done to it, somebody can actually get in there and physically work or pull things apart without having to be too tight. I saw where it was at. It's just something that let's bring it up. My preference is I prefer landscaping done appropriately around it to cover it and make it look more natural versus something man-made around a structure. That's just my preference.
What I'm trying to figure out is how you're going to get that. If you're doing plants, the plants are going to have to be tall. These are just a couple little
Well, they're
thin
not that
bushes.
tall. Again, the AC is, it's not, we're not talking.
Yeah, it's gonna
So
have to
you
be
have to
tall.
plant the right stuff to make sure, and you have to buy mature stuff.
And then you have to make sure that whoever lives there is going to maintain it.
Well, look, I mean, there's HOAs and there's, stuff has to be kept up. There's no.
These are rentals.
I understand that, but so the property just goes unkept because they're rentals? I'm asking the
Could.
question.
It could, very much so.
Well, then that's an HOA issue, not, that's a whole nother issue.
That's a owner issue.
I mean,
not an
put a wood
HOA.
fence in and it's gonna end up getting termite damage and end up falling down and everything anyway,
Oh, I'm not saying
so.
you have to put wood, but you may be able to put something like that, not as big, but something
I'm just-
smaller
that's just
and around
my-
it.
My personal opinion. I prefer to see
Yeah.
more of a natural coverage than a fence. But
I'd
it's
rather
whatever
do
everybody
the
else
fence
agrees with.
personally, and that way you could get in the wiring as well and get that covered.
Wiring.
Yeah, they have the way that the units are.
Talking about the conduit?
Yes, thank you, I couldn't think of the name.
On the wall, you mean?
No, what's coming off of the units? What do you
Yeah,
call
on the
it?
wall, the conduit and the air, the conditioned air.
You're typically not going to address that because the wire comes out the conduit.
But if you did,
Right.
if you do it right, you can.
But it's not anything you would typically address. Once the wire's in the conduit, that's just simply.
Okay,
a
you're not
flat
seeing
wire.
what, I'm trying to figure out how to
Are you talking about
describe.
the lines
got
for the condenser and
cooling
all that
lines.
stuff? Is that what you're
Yeah.
talking about?
They run them outside.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
run them outside and put a cover over them.
Right.
Yeah.
Typical for.
And they have no cover on them, is that what you're?
They have no cover on them, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what you're actually
Mhm.
saying.
So I was trying to say if they put the fence around, this will encompass all of that and resolve all
Would it,
that.
would it be okay to let him, if he has an idea about it?
Is this about the screening?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Is it okay?
Sure.
The pipes that come to the air conditioner, which are the compressor lines, those come out the wall and they come near the air conditioner as close as they could get it. There is a conduit on the wall because the building official that came out during the final electrical inspection, there's a code that says that you have to be able to access the disconnect without reaching over something else. So we had to relocate it to a place where you could reach it without, to meet the code, basically. Because we did have final electrical inspection, gas, water, all those things were already final. Because we had all our meter releases, just to clarify. If you're talking about the air conditioners that are inside the private open space, there already is a fence around the private open space. And there's landscaping also in front of the air conditioners. If we're talking about the air conditioner on the west side, which is on the side facing Walnut, there's one air conditioner unit there, and an early comment from staff was that they felt there wasn't enough landscaping, so the landscaper came back and added more bushes to try to hide the, gas meters and that air conditioner. And yes, they do have to mature a bit. The pictures we have are a little bit old. They've already matured quite a bit. If we need more, that's fine. If we need a little fence in front of the one on the west elevation, totally fine. I agree with Larry, sorry, that you will call more attention to it with a white picket fence than the landscaping. It won't blend in as well. But whatever you guys want is fine. That's easy stuff.
Okay, so.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So I'm comfortable saying that that condition needs to be satisfied, right? To the satisfaction of staff. If it's.
Yeah,
I'm
if I can
okay with the
interject.
staff, yeah.
It sounds like what you're saying is that you'd like it to be covered now and not someday when the plant grows up, maybe? Is that what you're
I just want it to
maybe
look
saying?
nice. So if you go over there and you think it looks nice and everything's meeting the needs and you
Right.
figure out how do you do it, I'm good with that.
Those plants will grow up. They are like an inch away from the air conditioning condenser. I'm not sure how that'll work once they grow up higher. I mean, I assume they will trim behind and trim them away from the air conditioner, but, you know, right now, they're just two little sticks down there, and hopefully they'll grow up fine.
Well, I'm comfortable leaving that to staff's discretion. If you feel that they should be more mature plants to start with, to get us a better start, then let's have them do more mature plants. If you're confident that what they have there now is gonna get the
but
job done,
as long
then.
as it satisfies you guys. I mean, that's,
They're leaving it up to you.
yeah.
Yep, assistant planner. Put that on there.
Okay.
You do want to know my opinion? Is that?
Yes, please.
Okay, all right. My opinion is that those plants will grow up. They'll probably have to trim them back. And if they can successfully do that, that'll be great. But if they can't, we'll come with code enforcement and say, replace that with a notice of violation.
Are they
Replace those
planted too
plants.
close to the condenser? Do they need to just be moved
I have no idea
6
how
inches away, or?
close it is.
Okay.
I mean, how much they can take.
Okay.
Closeness of plants.
All right.
So if in a year you go back and they're dead or they're not covered.
Right,
Then
then
code
they get a
enforcement
notice of
says-
violation.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Okay,
with that.
so
I'm good with what's there.
that issue, that needs to be corrected, right?
Right.
Or that
So-
item needs to stand, right?
Yeah,
That's
okay.
not something
Yes.
that we're gonna vary from. Window count on south side of building does not match the window count on the elevations. 3 extra windows. Anybody have any questions or any comments on that?
I think they should have asked staff, however, and that's one of those where I would have said staff.
We
would
get
be
that
okay.
they didn't ask staff.
Yeah.
Our thing right now
But-
is, are we okay with the 3 extra
The
windows?
fact
or are
that
we
they
not?
put the 3 extra windows in the comments in the report was for extra light in the kitchen, then I went, well, that's fine. I
Yeah,
have no issue over that.
No issue with it either. It was, again, the process.
Right.
Windows are
Good.
fine.
It's
There
good.
may be a structural issue, though, that the building inspector may need to review on that one.
And then I would
Okay,
just
so
put
can we
that
ask-
the
well-
So-
condition.
I think
Window, okay, so what you're hearing, what I'm hearing from you is that from a planning perspective, the windows are fine. So now it'll move on to the building department.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay,
Or if,
we will guide them
can
through the
the
building
architect
department
actually
through
say
the-
something with their, if their architect is here, can they actually speak to it?
Well, I would rather our
Yeah.
city make sure
Just
the
let them deal
building
with it,
structure,
yeah,
yes.
that's fine.
Yeah, so we'll say that that modification is okay with
Building
approval of the
approval.
building department.
Yes.
Steve, if they would have come to you, and said, we need to add windows, which I totally get, the kitchen's dark, you want to add the windows. Would there have been a fee associated with that?
Yeah, there'd be a modification for them to go back into plan check, probably.
Okay, so do they get charged that fee?
We will charge them every fee that's applicable.
Okay,
There are new fees that were instituted this year for that kind of stuff too,
Okay.
so that's,
They are charged for continuance of
remember.
public hearings, they are charged for
yeah, everything,
reapplication.
whereas,
okay.
Okay. Plans indicate a curb around private open space, as built, no curb. I don't really know how that impacts things. Does anybody have any?
Staff doesn't know if it does, it's just not per the plan.
Yeah.
Is staff of the thought that it's going to create issues with drainage or water pooling or?
I don't know why it was put in the plan in the first place.
Okay.
Let's put it that way. And so I don't know whether it's needed. Their architect designed it to be there. I don't know what changed, if anything, you know, that we may need to ask them.
The architect might wonder why he worded it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, is there any, do you have any?
The curb was there to help support a wood fence. That was basically it.
Okay.
How,
There's no wood fences.
No,
allowed.
no,
You
I
would
understand that, but
embed
how?
you would embed a 4x4 post.
Oh, you
in
were going to
that
put
curb.
into the curb.
So with the vinyl, you don't need that. It's already filled with concrete.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, so we're okay with, I'm okay with no curb.
Me too.
We're okay. Okay. And then the last item, the installed garage doors do not match the elevation as built. The doors have a different panel arrangement style. So,
Show you the old.
Yeah, I couldn't
it's-
find the old one.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a minor change.
It's more aesthetics than anything else, right?
Right. Let's see, I have it right here, maybe. Well, it's, you know, what they picked was a standard garage door. What they had shown, let's see if I can find it here.
Probably on that colored elevation.
I saw the current one. I was wondering what was on the drawing for the old.
In his laptop, he probably.
Yeah, I have it.
Oh, you did?
I forgot about that.
The drawing.
There's what it is now.
Okay.
There it is. That's what was pitched.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Anyway, it's interesting with the attention to detail and picking some of the materials that they've chosen for a longer lasting, better quality. That by far is a higher quality looking door when you put that on versus the standard, you know, $4.99 door that you see on the commercial. It's done at this point, but that's a much nicer looking door. Can I ask the applicant a question? Is that okay?
sure.
Just curious as to what the reasoning was behind moving from that to more of the standard traditional basic door. And there may not be a reason. I'm kind of curious because your attention to detail on some stuff is, and so that one's strange to me. Why
You're right. Couple of reasons. We hire a garage door contractor, and we show them the plans, and they come in and they say, well, these are the standard doors we offer. And it's not a $4.99 door. The doors are about $1,000.
I was.
That's okay.
Sorry.
You can get them that cheap, though, and they're
Yeah.
pretty crappy. So we ask him, what have you got? And he says, well, we have these, and this one with the 16 panels is a really popular door. It looks really good. It's insulated, et cetera. So honestly, I probably should pull out the plans and say, well, it doesn't quite match. I should have checked with Stephen and Tom, but we just make a decision in the field. Furthermore, when you see an elevation drawing like this, you're looking at it in 2 dimensions.
Correct.
Those garages are on the other side and in the alley. You don't see them from the street.
Oh, I understand that.
Yeah, so
I get it.
I guess to us, it's kind of a minor thing. And I agree, if you had a home where the garage faced the street and it was an architectural element of the home, yeah, all day long. So,
Okay, I was just curious. Thank you.
yeah, sorry. Thanks.
No, thanks. At this point, it's done. It's not like they put in a door that you know,
Right.
a spring-loaded door that lifts up a wood door. I mean, that's more of an aesthetic thing than anything else. It's unfortunate, but at this point, in my opinion, just leave it there.
Okay.
Well, that door is actually, there's a lot of them exactly like that in my area.
Yeah, it's not,
So it's very
it's not,
consistent with the area.
it's nothing, it's not bad. It's just the other
Yeah.
one was so much.
I'm okay with it too. If it was more on a frontage or something, you know,
Makes
it might be a
yeah.
little different, but it is, no one's really gonna see it.
Standard
It's
door.
not,
It's not-
yeah, and it's pretty standard.
Yeah.
What do you
Just
mean?
like-
I ride my skateboard back there.
Just like mine. Oh, I'd like to see that.
Your hoverboard?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll say that modification is okay. There's a couple additional items on here. The conduit lines for air conditioner condensers are exposed on the outside walls of the structure. Is that the case? Are those?
There is a conduit, I'm sorry, did you say condensate line?
It says conduit line for air conditioner condensers.
Yeah,
So there's,
You might be thinking of the one that comes from the roof and comes down the outside of a building. No, they're inside the wall. It pops out of the wall near the condenser.
Okay.
And yeah, it does come out and it's exposed, like maybe this far to get from the wall where it was to the condenser.
You have a photo
That
of
picture, you can see
that?
there's
See it
a
there,
electrical
above the
line.
fence.
That's not a
it.
compressor line, that's the conduit for the electrical. Now, what we could do is we could paint that the color of the wall, make it a little bit disappear. Again, that's because we had to move the disconnect over to accommodate the electrical code. It was just a mistake, quite frankly.
I think painting it the same color would.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a minor.
Oh, you know what? I bet you on the pictures I gave you guys, you might see it.
It's a minor detail, but having it the same color would be helpful.
It does help, yeah, we got to paint that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Super minor, but
I
It
agree.
makes a big
It doesn't look
difference,
good.
you know.
it does.
I had air conditioning put in this summer, and the guy, I had another conduit running up the wall, and it was gray. And when the guy did the one for the air conditioning,
just
he
blends.
painted both of them, and I was like, oh wow, that's so much
Yeah,
better.
you don't want to draw.
I've had it like
attention
that for
to
years.
stuff.
Okay, so we'd want to see that painted to match. Is that okay with everybody?
Yep.
Missing grids, mullions, and the rear-facing window is facing south.
I think they said that they were going to add those.
No.
No, one of the things said it was previously approved, I think in the letter from Nick. It said that staff had previously approved the removal.
Did we stamp that and all? I don't recall doing that.
You know, it was over the counter and it was all verbal, to be honest with you guys. We
So
felt
that's for
that
the windows
grid-
over the
windows
garage on the back?
On the back side that you don't see from anywhere. And that, honestly, that's an effort to just save a little bit of cost on windows. And you don't see them, so we had addressed that early on with, I believe, Stephen and Tom, and they agreed that do all the windows on the
Outside.
exposed elevation, have grids on those.
Yeah, the one on the left.
I'm okay with that. or-
I'm good with it.
Wendy,
Yes.
you're good?
Yeah.
Okay. And then split face block used instead of, used for fencing instead of stucco
See
covered
that
masonry.
5 times fast.
Yeah.
I'm good with it.
I'm
I'm okay
fine
with
with
that.
that.
Some of the units do not have front door steps. Is that, if they don't need a
It's-
step, they don't need a
If
step?
they don't need a step, they don't need a step. That's fine with me. It's just that some are they're basically, if you go up to the door, they have a little rise to the door. Some of them have steps like this and some don't. So it's just, it's a small aesthetic thing. I mean, just, if people are fine walking
We
in
could have the
behind.
building department check it out, make sure
Yeah,
it's code.
that's a good idea.
But it
Yeah.
wasn't plan checked through plan check, they skipped that process.
If
So
there's
these
no-
items didn't go through the plan check process.
If it's level, you can't create a step. You just can't. If it's fairly level, even if we wanted to put a step in, we couldn't.
Whatever the case, there's a
There-
code for rise and run.
Yeah.
Yeah, can we just leave it at that?
Yeah,
If
at
it's-
building
If it's
department.
required by
Yeah.
building, then it has to be there.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, then
Yeah,
I'm
sounds
fine
good.
with it.
Okay, I'm good with that. Everyone else?
Mhm.
Wendy?
Mhm.
And then window shutters are missing on north elevation. Is that
I
supposed to
believe
be
they
on?
said they were going to put those in, right?
Yeah, honestly, we were going to finish those few items, including the cement that Ms. Gross addressed. But, you know, I supervised the building, and I asked Mr. Stepakis, should I go ahead and finish these other things? He says, no, you should wait in case the planning department, or sorry, the planning commission has any comment or any other changes we need to make. So yes, the shutters need to go in, and the section of concrete needs to go in. At the same time, we may have to have changed the step or something else. So we didn't want to piecemeal the work on the concrete and everything else. Yes, the shutters, yes, the concrete that's missing, yes. All those things need to be finished.
I didn't see that as one of the, I mean, I know it was mentioned, but we didn't cover it as one of the conditions.
No, but if they say they're going to fix it, then let's make sure we add it and make sure that they.
Can we add that?
The hole in the concrete was just temporary power pole.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Okay.
Okay, so, so the window shutters will be corrected, and then the issue with the concrete that Commissioner Gross had mentioned,
Yeah. When they, but
that will be addressed as well, so can we just have staff make a note of that? I don't know that we need to get into the public comments about this, because.
I am going to bring something out of there. You've got plants that are going to grow over in the parkway too tall, that can block the alley access and view. And we have a school in that area. That's a big concern to me. I work in Cypress, and I wonder if Cypress did what we did, but Stephen brought to us this thing about making sure our parkways didn't have plants so tall that you can't see over them to get out. And when I'm leaving my work, I think, boy, Stephen, you should come talk to Cypress because we got to get these plants shortened. And it's hard to see oncoming cars. That was a hint. She's still there.
Is it okay if I address that?
But I just moved the plants. But yeah, you can, but it just move 'em.
There's a code for parkways that they have to be trimmed to a certain height, and if they go over that, they get a
Yeah,
code
it's like 2
enforcement
feet.
ticket.
And Wendy, I can attest to the fact that they do enforce it because I did get a little letter from the city for mine being too high close to the sidewalk.
Okay, so that's a good thing to address, because it's a public safety thing.
And it'll be their responsibility to have the gardeners keep it
Or
trimmed
just
down.
move them. They've got some beautiful plants there, just, I was gonna do it for them.
Okay. I think that's it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think so.
So I think we've covered all the items on here. Based upon that, do we have a motion? Is that what we would do here, is a
think
motion based upon
Is it a site?
this discussion?
You can make a motion to improve in part and deny in part the modifications, and then direct me to bring back the appropriate resolution.
I'll make a motion to that.
I'll second.
All right, have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None? Motion carried. Congratulations, I hope.
Thanks.
Want to let Art bolt out of
All
the
right,
cage?
yeah, let's invite Art back.
Should we take a break?
Yep.
No. No.
I'm good.
Nobody will take that.
Okay, I'll bring the meeting back to order. We're on item 8D. This is site plan review of, or continuation of a meeting and site plan review for a project at 3751 Farquhar Avenue. Can we have a staff report, please?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. I'm going to take you back to our last meeting. During our last meeting, the Planning Commission was considering resolutions of denial for all three applications on this project. There was a resolution of denial for the site plan review, conditional use permit, and the map. Those were all part of the record that evening, and through testimony that was provided to you, you decided to allow for a continuance for this. The applicant's representative, Nick Zamvikelis, is representing the applicant. The actual applicant listed on the application is Allison Stepakis and Olympia Stepakis. And Olympia is here in the room tonight. During that planning commission meeting, there was testimony from a resident, and then there was opposing testimony by the applicant. The applicant made it very clear that they would do completely on grade, 2-story, no strings attached, no games. Wherein the resident that was speaking at the public hearing, the next door neighbor, then decided that if that was the case, then he would come on board with it and support the project, and he thought that was acceptable. The following day, another representative of the applicant, Mr. Nick Zamfikelis, stated at the counter, "I hope the commission did not think we meant the whole project would be 2 stories." Normally, I wouldn't provide this information, but I thought that was very important information, that you have, again, one person saying one thing and another thinking another. So in that, the Planning Commission rendered their decision to not deny the project based on that testimony. I thought it was important for you to know, and an opportunity tonight for you to clarify what their intentions were and what your expectations were of those items. The applicant had paid the continuance fee because you awarded them a continuance, and they paid that $1,174 fee on February 14th. They have yet to prepare those plans, but since this is a public hearing, I thought you should know that information that occurred between then and now, in case you wanted to reconsider anything.
Okay, do we have any questions of the staff regarding the presentation, staff report? Okay, just a clarification, we did not vote to not deny the project. We voted to continue.
Correct.
Continue that meeting based upon the representation.
On those resolutions.
Exactly. Okay, great. Okay, this is a public hearing. I'll open it to the public. If anyone wants to come forth and speak on this item.
Am I public or applicant? You're not the applicant. You don't want me to speak?
Who is the applicant?
The applicant is Nick's wife and his mother-in-law.
Are either one here?
His mother-in-law is here.
Steve Stepakis speaking for Olympia Stepakis.
All right. You can speak later. So you're the representative?
Yes.
All right, okay.
We don't have a project to present because we're still working on the plans. We'll answer any questions you have.
Has anything changed since the last?
With reference to what?
Well, let's go ahead. So we'll go ahead and let you speak. Do we have anybody else that want?
We don't.
I'll ask questions in a second.
Hey, we don't have a project to present. It's not ready yet.
Okay.
Is the project that you're presenting going to be 2 stories, the whole project?
No, that's not what our intention was. Our intention was to build to code, and when we said 2 stories, it was to note 11. I went back and watched the video. I told you
Okay,
2-story.
I did.
And the gentleman who was on the far left, he's not here tonight, he asked me specifically as to note 11, did you know note 11? Are you familiar with it? And that note referred to no 3 stories within 100 feet of R1. I said I knew what it meant. He goes, do you know what 2 stories means? I said, of course. It's going to be 2 stories on grade.
Okay. Anybody else?
Let's get everything out on the table, okay?
Just a
I
second.
want you to, if you have a question, a specific question, I'm here to answer it.
We'll get to that.
But there's a certain discussion that the planning director had with my family, and that needs to be made public because it has direct bearing on this. And I'll let him make his representation, and then I'll comment on it. The one thing that he can't comment on, which he already has, I had a private conversation with the neighbor. Before the meeting, I went up to the gentleman and I said, hey, look, we're going to propose 4 units, not 5. Never said 2-story to him, never discussed it. I said, we're going to come back in and propose 4 units. He said, great, that's all I ever wanted. And that was it. Steve, I'm pretty sure you weren't standing right next to us. So that's a private conversation, and you have no idea what I said to that gentleman. So let's just leave it at that for right now.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Go ahead.
As my brother-in-law said, we we don't have the project ready to resubmit, it would have been nearly impossible to redesign the plans. We had an idea of how to do it, which is being very simple. But in order to submit plans and have staff would have to review it again because it's not the same exact plans that they already reviewed and deemed the application complete last year, they would have had time to review the plans. So there's no way we could have been at this meeting with a project ready to present. It's just not possible. So if anybody on the Planning Commission believed that we were going to be here presenting a project tonight, I'm sorry that you may have believed that. I don't know if any of you did, but this is just not possible. We've also made a very strong attempt, because of the changes that you saw us make on the other project and the sensitivity that that staff and Planning Commission and the city has now to any informal changes. We want to make our plans as airtight as we possibly can. Undoubtedly, there'll be some minor change during construction. It's never been our intent to willy-nilly make changes to plans and redesign things as we go. We don't do that. I stick to the plans as best I can. So, in an effort to help staff understand plans better, we've also taken to having our plans drawn in AutoCAD, and that's what we're going to be presenting. I just got these tonight. I didn't even have time to print the bigger sets. I'm not here to present this to you, but this is the plan. We have to check it now and flesh it out, attach the rest of the items that staff requires for a full submittal package, and we're going to move forward. We're going to present you a package that you're going to like, I hope. It is two-story in the front unit. It's a beautiful home in the front. The back 3 units are basically the same as you'd seen before. And in our last meetings, for the last year and a half of these meetings, we've never even addressed the back 3 units and the fact that they're 3-story, because that meets code. That's perfectly within the code, no question. We had an issue with the front building being 3 stories, with the concern of it being within 100 feet of an R1 zoned property, and we discussed the drainage ditch, and we understand we disagree, but understand the Planning Commission's position, and it's just a difference of opinion. So we're trying to conform as best we can. We're trying to work with Planning Commission and with staff to bring in a project that can be approved easily. I don't know what else to say about the comment about the 2-story on grade. That I thought about it that night. I lost sleep over it because I thought, wow, I wonder if everybody thought when Steve said that it's 2-story on grade. I said, I hope they understand that we're talking about the front building, because the back building can be 3-story. It's well within the purview of the code to allow that. So that's why I came in and addressed it with Mr. Mendoza that morning. And actually, when I said that, I think I was talking to Tom, and Steve walked by, and I had said, I hope that everybody realized that we were talking about the front building being 2-story and the back building being 3-story. And I'm hesitant to quote what Mr. Mendoza said, because again, he quoted me in quotes on your staff report. Is it appropriate for me now to quote him on a completely ex parte conversation? I don't think it's appropriate that he quoted me. There was no recording. It is what I said. I don't deny it. But I'd like Mr. Mendoza to tell you people what he said to me as he walked by. When he heard that I said, I hope that Planning Commission didn't think that we meant 2-story everywhere. I'd really like to have that explained. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Okay, I'll bring it back. I'll close the public hearing. I'm going to bring it back to the commission. Does anybody have any questions?
Make a comment.
Questions at this point of anybody? No questions. Okay, now comments.
So I would like to say that the conversation is irrelevant to me at this point. I don't even think we need to go there. It's the issue at hand is this for me. The question at hand was the 3 stories in the front because of the R3 across. That's where it was. I don't think for me, in my mind, it was that I ever thought it was two-story all the way through. The two issues that were of concern were 5 units and the 3 stories in the front. The fact that it's 4 units and 2 stories in the front, as far as I'm concerned, meets the code and the requirement that I thought that we were after. So if, maybe I misunderstood it, but that's where I was at with it.
Let me go next. I guess I'll go next. I recall a couple. First off, I read the minutes, and I'll just read the minutes. And it says, Steve Stepakis, son of an applicant, came forward to request the planning commission to continue the item. Mr. Stepakis stated that should the item be continued, be brought back as a 2-story, 4-unit project, which will meet all the planning commission concerns. I watched the video, and that's exactly what was said. I believe on grade was in there, but it was verbatim. The next thing that I looked at and was concerned about is the one person that was here, and they're in the minutes on the next page, page 3 of 8 on the minutes. Bryce Ricks, property owner at 3741 Farquhar, expressed support for the development should it be brought back as a 2-story, 4-unit project. And I remember him standing up there and saying that, and his concern was, and it had to do with the 3 stories in the back, the whole project being 3 stories, the people looking across at him, and when he got up here and he said, if it's going to be 2 stories, I'm on board. 4 units, I'm on board. And that is the way I understood it, that's what it would be. So that's where I'm at.
Well, and he'll have an
Anybody else?
opportunity to come back. I mean, he'll have an opportunity to come back when they present next time. I mean, I appreciate Nick saying, you know, that they're going to try to make these plans tighter than the last ones so that there aren't all these issues. But I mean, I'm not going to be as forgiving next time. I mean, you guys are experienced developers. You know, every time we see you a lot, and you always, you know, say how long you've been building in the city and some of the stuff that happened last time. And no disrespect, but you know, you talk about, you know, oh, my 86-year-old mother who had a stroke, but yet she's developing another piece of property. So I don't, you know, I just think it's kind of hiding that I felt like on that last one, there were a lot of excuses, and it might be better for me if there was like one person who was the spokesperson for the group, as opposed to, you know, Steve gets up and Nick gets up and the back and forth. That's just my opinion.
Any other comment?
I would agree with Commissioner Andretti. My impression was that they were going to do the 2-story in the setback area to the R1 zone, and that the rest of it would be 3-story. That was my impression of the project.
I mean, at that point, it meets code, correct?
Well,
Potentially meets code.
Potentially. It would meet, okay, depending on what we see. But what I'm saying is that potentially, if it meets the setback requirement, we've agreed that it's going to be 4 units. If they go 3-story in the back and it meets the 30-foot, and I forget how it was worded, but if it meets that requirement, was it 30 feet and 3 stories or something like that? Anyway, if it meets that requirement, it meets the requirement.
well, I mean, at this point, if it's continued, they can come back with whatever they want to come back with. Okay, they can do whatever they want to do, because it is.
I know, but we
you know,
had the conversation of
Right.
trying to have them come back with something that we would approve, so we're not going back and forth.
Right.
So I think that it's important to get this out on the table right
Yeah.
now and make sure that we're all clear and that they're clear what they come back with, so that we're not having them come back with whatever they want to come back with and we go, no way.
Well, all I know is what I heard. We all heard the same thing. How we process that is where the difference is. And I'm of the opinion that, well, I know what I heard. I'm not as, I heard 2 stories and 4 units, and I took that in context with the gentleman that was out here that came forward. Is it legal that, I mean, does it meet the code if it's 3 stories? that aspect of it, just that aspect, standing alone by itself, it would. But that's not what I heard. And he's not here, the individual the neighbor, I did hear him expand a little bit on what he thought 2 stories was. He lives in the back there, and he says, I don't want to have the people looking right across, 3 stories up, looking right across at me. And that was the gist of that conversation. So if it's going to be 2 stories, which means it's not going to be eye level across, then he was on board. Now, obviously, he doesn't sit up here, but that's part of the overall context of what I heard with respect to what was presented to us.
Right. But his is 3 stories next door, correct?
He is 3 stories, and 3 stories would put him eyeball to eyeball with the.
But that's not our. That's I mean.
No.
I mean, if he's allowed 3 stories in the person.
Well, no,
is
I'm not disputing that. I'm not disputing that. His objection to the project was that it's too much for the site, okay, and that and it was 3 stories. It's going to be across from him, even though he's 3 stories, okay, as well. I understand that, and for the context that of his assent to continuing this, it was in my opinion, it was his notion that the entire project would be 2 stories on grade, okay, and they'll meet just how it was presented to us. Now that was my understanding.
Okay, and I think the only way that we'll know 100% on that is if the person actually came and said that that's what he thought too. We're speculating at this point.
Well, no, it's in our minutes. It's in our minutes right here on page 3. Okay,
but in the minutes it doesn't.
Yeah, it says he expressed support for the development. Should it be brought back as a 2-story 4-unit project?
But that's your interpretation of it.
No, that's what he said.
That is, but you can have interpretation within the text, within the
All right.
context.
Well, okay. So, be that as it may, what we have before us is this.
What do we want to see?
What do we want to do? And what do we want to continue this project again? And we've all heard. And if we want to provide any further clarity, I guess I would have a question to the attorney. Can we condition a continuance or project on, if the code allows, well, if it fits 5 units and and 3 stories, are we allowed to? Does it matter? Can we continue? If it comes back, then do we withdraw it? Or,
I'm not sure I understand that.
So I wasn't at the last meeting. I've read the minutes, which means I can participate in this discussion tonight. To me, the question is, and you can weigh in on this, but is whether or not the continuance at the last meeting was granted in good faith, right? Did this commission grant the continuance based upon the assumption that it was going to be a completely 2-story project? And
that becomes, and I think
right?
that's where we can just vote on it.
So if that was the case and that was the assumption, then maybe it wasn't in good faith, and maybe, like not granting a continuance and just ending this right now would be what would have happened last time if that was the understanding. But, you guys were at that meeting, so I can read this and I kind of know where I stand on it. Because I didn't have a problem with the 3-story project to begin with. But I don't think we should look at it like, so that's a question for you guys to ask yourselves, right? Was that continuation granted in good faith? And if it wasn't, then perhaps this shouldn't even be up before us here tonight, right? And that can be taken care of tonight.
Well, I'll comment on that.
And then,
that's a question.
And then the second question is, which I think this is kind of like that legal question, if we do continue it, can we say, oh, but it has to be an all 2-story project, which I'm of the opinion that no, if we continue it, they can come back with us with anything that meets the code.
That's correct.
Well,
They
even-
can come back with anything,
Including,
and then you would decide.
Right.
Right.
Well, it would be smarter if they got something that they thought met the code.
To their
but
advantage,
yes,
to come back with something that's
agreed.
code compliant.
To add a little clarity to it, the applicant did not withdraw his application.
Right.
Therefore, the application that existed before tonight stands. That is the application you have in front of you. It hasn't been altered. A new application has not been submitted. A new plan has not been submitted. So in the record, you have the resolutions of denial and a previous application.
Or we can continue.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Wendy.
Okay. What I heard from them in good faith is that they would like to build a project that would make us proud. And they want to take that front unit and make it meet the needs or the codes in our city. That was where the number one problem really existed, was that distance, and they were going to fix all of that. As far as the 3 stories behind, I didn't think they were reducing them. I thought they were going to be 3 stories behind. The gentleman can go on his second floor, and the guys can go on their second floor, and they're still going to see each other. Whether he goes on the first floor, second floor, third, or for what, that's not my issue with neighbors. Unfortunately, in this town, we get a lot of people close together. So if they come in here with a project that meets the code, is a nice-looking project, and doable, and it's got 3 stories on back units, and that front unit meets code, then I'm okay with that. Because that was how I understood that they wanted to, in good faith, meet the conditions that they had been battling, but yet wanted to put together a really nice unit.
That is how I interpreted it. I also didn't have any expectations of necessarily seeing any plans in front of me tonight, because I know that takes a while to do. So there was no expectation that we were going to have something. For me, it is more about meeting the code, which we discussed already with the front, and it can have 3 in the back, which does still meet the code, and bringing it down to 4 units from a density standpoint. Those were the 2 big issues for me, and that's what we informed them to bring back to us. If they choose to bring back something different than that, and now with the clarity tonight, if everybody's on board with saying that 3 stories are okay in the back, then they have a very clear path on what they should bring back to us for approval. And if they choose not to do that, that's on them. But if we can give them clarity on what we're all basically are trying to agree upon, is what they should be, I think we need to all get on the same page, and we'll be able to get through this all right.
I agree. The density was the bigger issue to me. Going from the 5 to the 4 was huge, and I'm okay if the front one's 2-story and the back 3 are 3.
Yes, I agree with Mr. Andretti. My impression was that the front was going to be 2 stories, the back can be 3. I'm okay with that. I think we talk a lot about the code. We rely a lot on the code, maybe too much, I think, sometimes. I think we have too much talk about the code rather than the project sometimes. That's just a comment that I have. And the fact that we drill the code so much, then it almost makes us have to adhere to the code. You know what I mean? Right? We put ourselves in a box sometimes when it comes to the code. I can just say that I watched some other city council meetings and some planning commission meetings in different states, and when it comes to variances and things like that, I mean, it's a totally different meeting than what we have here. I've got a different viewpoint of that. But anyway, so I think we the fact on this project is we've talked so much about the code is we're going to have to stick with the code. You know what I mean? We have to kind of go with that code. And the main point of that was that front setback and facing the R1 zone. So I'm okay with the 2 stories in the front, meeting that setback, 3 stories in the back. We have to pay attention to the code since we've already drilled this code so much on this project, and I'm okay with that.
Well, all the other requirements, landscape and
exactly,
setbacks and all of those things.
We should pay more attention to that, more attention to some of those details.
That's what's got to come back. I don't want to see
variance. Code, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So and to the people that come in and the public that comes in and speaks and so forth, I don't give that neighbor that much weight. So that's just my impression. I give him some weight, but I don't give him that much weight.
Right.
So.
Okay, so we have a motion?
This would be a motion for a continuance? Is that what we're doing? I'll make a motion to continue.
I'll second it.
You want to provide any clarity within that motion?
Well, yes, thank you. The motion to continue, and that we're clear that going to meet code with respect to the 2 stories in the front. The 3 stories have to meet code in the back, and all of the other code requirements, I don't want to see any variances. I know that's lengthy. but
Development
that-
standards.
Yeah, just up to the current development standards without exceptions or variances if we can.
Okay, do we have a second for that?
I'll second it.
All right.
Yeah, and just to I think just the comment on that is that we still don't know what's going to happen next meeting. You know what I mean? We have a commissioner that's not here, and his interpretation of what's going on. So it doesn't mean that it's guaranteed that someone's going to say nope, 2 stories all the way through. It could happen, unfortunately, but.
But I think they have the majority at this point to see.
Yeah, I think we have an idea
trying to-
of
trying
where
to give you a
everybody
path to
stands.
go with.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion and we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay? Okay.
I appreciate the direction that you gave us. I appreciate everybody telling me what their expectation was. The next morning, the planning director said, I won a $1 bet with one of the planning commissioner members. That's not that important. The only important thing is, he said, I won the bet because they're going to back down from this 2-story comment. That's what the planning director said. The only reason why I bring that up, I don't mind the bet, I don't mind the comment, but if there was anything that wasn't clear about what I said, and I really wish I would have said it a little more clear so that a couple people would have got it. But if there was anything that they didn't understand clearly, I think that planning commissioner member had the responsibility, and the planning director had the responsibility to say, hey, look, just to get things straight here, let's clarify this. What did you mean, Steve Stepakis? If they really believed that, they had that responsibility to do that. I wish they had. Then we wouldn't be here tonight. I appreciate everybody's comments.
Can I make a comment, please?
Go ahead.
That was probably unnecessary to go there. When I made the statement earlier that really that conversation, whatever it was irrelevant. We're trying to operate on an objective process here, and that wasn't. You didn't have to go there. That wasn't necessary. I just want to make that comment. You don't even have to reply. It would probably be best, but we're trying to do this in the most objective manner that we can and work with you guys. And I hope moving forward that we can continue to do that on a professional basis.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the next item.
Thanks. Sorry.
It's Kendra's item.
The wrong thing.
Huh?
I said sorry, I didn't appreciate
Oh,
it.
yeah. So who'd you win the $1 from?
No, that's what I don't get.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Item 8E.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, this is a portion of a study you're currently doing. You're currently looking at all parking regulations in the city. This is a segment of that you directed the city attorney to draft. It was for new R2 and R3 development standards for 1-bedroom units, for 2-bedroom units, 3-bedroom units, 4-bedroom units, and guest parking. Specifically unassigned guest parking. Guest parking that would be over and above the minimum. As you know, we took a tally of everyone's vote, put it together, hopefully we got it right. This was the majority. Some of you aren't represented in here for some of your parking regulations, but this doesn't end your study of parking. So we have a separate item on the agenda tonight that continues that conversation, just to clean it up, okay?
Right.
We didn't want to confuse the issue.
Right.
So this is the one that, if you adopt this tonight, and it meets what was said at the last public hearing, this will be forwarded to the city council at their next meeting. We'll publicly notice it Monday night,
Right.
next Monday.
Right.
Then it'll be on the city council's agenda for their consideration.
Okay, and then
And it is a public hearing.
any questions of staff?
No.
I just have one, and that had to do with the R2. Having us apply to the R2, we were, I think that was the gist, that this should all apply to the R2, R3. Did we discuss? We had a conversation.
We had a conversation that there was no difference between R2 and R3 in the commission's point of view.
Right.
And I
With
think
respect to the
parking.
parking.
Yes, strictly parking.
No,
you
right.
wanted R2
Yeah.
and R3 to
Right.
be the same.
Okay,
Yes.
fine.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, this is a public hearing. If there's anybody wishing to speak to this item, you can come forward. Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Bring it back to the commission. Do we have any discussion or comments, or somebody would like to make a motion to approve
I'll make a motion to approve.
the recommended item? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
I said aye.
All right.
Nay for me.
Okay, good. All opposed?
Me.
All right. Okay, so now
Consistent?
we're
Yes.
moving on to item F.
Okay, F is the continued discussion of all things related to parking. As you know, there's a lot of things on the table, but you specifically asked the city engineer or traffic engineer to be here tonight so we can discuss one certain item related to his specialty is backup, turning radius, and all of that good stuff. So still, some topics on the table are the covered, uncovered, and enclosed. How many should be garages? How many carports? Parking space size, garage size, carport size. Maneuvering aisles should be adequate for today's automobiles. Again, for hotties here to help you with that. Backup distance, turning radius, driveway width, aisle width, tandem parking, condominium requirements. Is ownership different than rental? Would you have a different parking standard or different anything for ownership or rental? R2 versus R3, should they be different or the same? So those are all the things on the docket tonight to talk about. I don't know how far you'll get with any of those being this late hour, but I would like you to take advantage of Farhad for some of the questions you might have.
Right. Let's, if we could have our traffic,
Pull this up.
go ahead and come forward.
Could you pull his up?
And let's maybe have him talk about the backup and turning radius.
Sure.
Uh,
That's okay.
Just as an administrative
Go ahead.
point, we can hear this tonight and discuss however many you'd like. If you don't get through all of these tonight, I can
Right.
certainly bring back the sample language next time without it having to be an ordinance, so that the next piece we take to the council could be the accumulation of all of these topics instead of doing a piecemeal ordinance every time. Just if there's more that you need to think about after tonight for this one or whichever item, just to.
I don't know how far we all want to go here tonight.
I'm pretty burnt.
I'd like to, he's been here all evening, and I think we should at least, let's get past him and then.
Get an
be on-
education on radius.
On turning radius, and then we can decide if we'll go from there.
Mr. Chair, member of the commission, my name is Farhad Irani Talab, I'm city traffic engineer. I conducted a very extensive search to find out what is the radius, and it's not a common thing, but that's basically is the gist of the search, showing if you have a tandem or two garage door and it's sideways. So let's say if you have an aisle, you need basically 25 feet of the outside radius from the center of the garage to make that maneuver. As you can see, if you're an end unit, they require, instead of 8 foot and 6 inches, you really need to have 11 foot 6 inches to be able to back out from the last garage. That's why you see that 10 feet opening with the 3 foot radius for the car to come back up like a hammerhead and then get out. Generally, if you don't have that and the radius is not an issue, it's just like a parking lot. You need a 24 feet aisle for backing up from your garage. So there's no different than a parking aisle on a 90 degrees parking. So that's basically the gist of what you need to know on the parking. If there is any question, I'll be happy to answer. The pivot point is from the center of the garage. So you go 25 feet and that shows you the direction. So if you assume this is the center of your garage, that's where the 25 feet comes.
So that's a 25 foot, your finger that just went vertically down.
This is 25 feet. And that's where the car needs to turn.
Can you revise?
No.
Driveway.
Can you
Is there a
revise this
difference
drawing to show
between a
that?
man driving and a
Well,
female driving?
let's talk about that. He shows it right here. But let me ask a question that I think will. So what you said is that, and our code requires a turning radius. I don't remember what it was, 28 feet or 28 feet. Okay, and our code also requires a unobstructed backup distance of 24 feet. Okay, and you just said that 24 feet is adequate or works in lieu of the turning radius, if
Correct.
I'm understanding just what you just said.
Correct.
Okay.
But you really don't need the both limit. If you have a 24 feet, then it will satisfy your 25-foot radius.
And that's what we've seen, basically. We see that on every project because our code requires 24 feet back and the radius. And on these prior projects, I was curious, and so I did a search on I tried to find, how do you compute turning I could not find, I found one, I don't know where at, one city somewhere, and they were talking about the rear wheels of the car and this and that, and I'm going, why do we even have it if we have 24 feet and 24 feet's enough? So I'm just, I think that's kind of.
I did the same thing, extensive searches, very few documents within any cities. I went from the Northern California to Southern California to find out what they have. That 24-foot makes more sense than anything else.
So we could delete the 25-foot turning radius.
That's my opinion.
And leave, and then that's one less thing about fighting the code and getting into a box.
Consensus.
So, that's one thing, maybe we can, at 10:05. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
I guess how far, do we want to continue this on to another, what's our schedule looking like? Do we know for?
Next month.
Next month, if we have a lighter agenda, heavier agenda?
Kind of up in the, it's light, but if you bring the continuance, the continued project from the last one,
Probably,
it could be a while.
yeah, it could be a while to get down
Yeah.
and analyze that one.
Yeah.
So it's light, it'll be lighter than this one.
Okay, what's the pleasure here? Show,
I'm good to wait. I'm good to cancel the whole thing.
continue to another meeting? Okay, shall we continue? We
You
got
don't even need to continue as far as I'm concerned.
well, we got a
Anyways.
few things we need to do.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if everybody's,
Yes, and maybe for direction for staff, I mean, I'll just, with respect to multifamily and condominium, I'd like to make sure that we have condominiums. I think you brought this up, having condominiums is a nice separate, I know it's already separate in there, but I think we need to.
For parking?
Yeah, I think for parking. Well, we can talk about that later.
why? I mean,
Well, if we're gonna-
if you have a condominium that's the same square footage as an apartment and you have the same amount of drivers, or does it matter if it's a condominium or an apartment?
I think the existing code, though, has some differences for condominiums.
There's
I'd have to review it again.
Yeah, let's
But there were some differences there that didn't make sense.
Yeah, I mean,
Remember,
can't-
With an apartment,
rented out.
but can we
And they
get
are
what
rented out.
can we get a copy for the next time as to what the current difference is in our current code?
It's in, well, you just got to look at the code.
It's in your,
We gave you. Remember
Yeah.
we gave you
Oh,
a
yeah, yeah,
binder?
Yeah. So we
That's
can,
your Bible, and you're required to keep it.
okay,
Thank
so
you,
anyway, so
Mary
let's,
Ann.
okay, so let's,
That's usually your
Because I'm all over the
all right,
parking.
so do we need to have a motion to continue this item?
Yeah, that would be good.
I'll make a motion to continue.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So then we have items from the commissioner, or from the staff.
I'm going to instruct staff to email you this drawing so you can put it in your binders, for your parking binder, if that's okay. Nothing really to report. I've been gone for 3 days, so I apologize. The lights are on the boulevard. They're
Look good.
burning. They should be done tomorrow burning, and they'll go to regular schedule from 6 p.m. till midnight. We're still questioning whether midnight's good. City falls asleep pretty early, so we're questioning it, whether midnight is too much. So those are on. We're very excited. Council at their next meeting will be talking about 2 or 3 lane configuration. And then after that's done, we can work on pavement.
Anything new with the hotel?
Yeah, they're April 1st, they paid $13,000 in plan check fees for, no, in permit fees for their offsites. And it didn't bounce. So we're very happy. So they said April 1st, we're still hesitant to use
You know what April 1st is?
I know. We're still
My
hesitant.
daughter's birthday.
But they made milestones that have led us to believe that it's still ongoing.
Okay.
Okay, commissioner comments, anything? Nothing?
I just one. Oh,
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say is that to expand on my last comment, I know Director Mendoza mentioned about watching other planning commissions and city councils and everything like that. It is kind of interesting I was sitting in a Vegas hotel watching a Las Vegas City Council meeting, and what's interesting is that it was actually a planning commission meeting, but everything was being approved by the city council, meaning that the planning commission didn't actually approve anything. They just recommended to the city council for approval. So the city council was going over all the planning items, and they went through them pretty fast, but they still had the applicant speak to it, and there was different items like variances and so forth, and they very easily approved these variances. I'm thinking, boy, they approved those variances really easily. We struggle over a variance. I mean, we really dig into it and struggle over it, but they were just like left and right. It's okay, it's okay, it's okay. I mean, they were down some dialogue. What's really funny is that because the items that came before the city council, they were all recommended by approval by the planning commission, but some of them were kind of like, really? I mean, it was one of them was 2 additional units with no additional parking, and the argument and it was required parking, but the argument from the applicant was that no, everyone that lives here is going to be using public transportation. They're not going to have a car. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, that would even get 2 feet into.
Well, actually, it will now.
It was interesting, and they actually approved it after all that discussion. It was like, oh, this thing is not going to go. How's this thing ever going to work? And then they approved it. City council approved it, and it was always, recommended by the planning commission. But some of the items were kind of like, oh, this was strange. They must have gone through like 20 items. It was.
That's because the only people watching are people from out of town.
Yeah,
They don't
I guess
have
so.
anybody to worry about what's going to be.
And somebody had done all the dirty work before, and they were just,
There was, you're right, there was. I guess there was them before, but yes and no, because some of the items, when they were presented, the applicant had to present again in front of the city council. And what's interesting was that each city council member seemed to have an interest in that item. Like, it would go to that person, and that city council person would talk, and this and this and this, and all of a sudden they would vote, and they'd all vote electronically. So
That's how a lot of cities.
so you electronically, and then all of a sudden it appears on the screen.
there's no appeal.
Yeah, all of a sudden they all vote at the same time. So whenever one's voted, it pops up. It's probably there's no oh, he did this, I'm going to wait and see what everybody else does, and then I'm going to vote in a certain way. It's kind of interesting because I think it does happen sometimes where you see other people voting, and you see how it's going to go, and you can vote a certain way. But anyways, it was kind of interesting how it was electronic. But it was amazing how it was like all unanimous too. Even though some of these items were like, no way is this going to be unanimous, and they were unanimous. I was like, oh my gosh. So anyways, my only comment was that it was interesting watching a city council / planning commission meeting in Las Vegas. And
So
it's very different.
The
Very
tables
different.
gotten a hold of you pretty early for you to get
So
back to
that's-
Yeah, it was. Yeah. You're wondering why I was watching it on
Yeah.
TV. I'm wondering myself.
How many vets were going? Will it be all unanimous?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they were betting in the audience. But it was pretty interesting, and it was just the difference of when we get heavily into the code and try to argue something about the code, when maybe we should just be kind of seeing what we think about the project and say, I don't like it. We have to justify it sometimes with the code. That's how we make our arguments. That's how we convince other people. I get that, but maybe a little bit less code, and a little bit more project. That's my thought, anyways. You know what I mean? Anyways.
I have
That's
just
it.
one thing. We all got a memo from the city attorney here, and I want to thank her for that. And if everybody could kind of read it, I think I'd like to try to conduct the meeting along these guidelines. And, you know, it has to do with like closing the public hearing. When we close the public hearing, if I'm saying this right, you know, that's it. There's no more discussion from the, you know, from the floor, or an input from the floor, unless we decide to let them speak, and we'd have to take a vote to let them speak. So we try to give them adequate time, okay, and then finally we end it.
Right.
And then, but if, you know, if obviously we need more information.
Sometimes it's required to bring them back up for more
Exactly, so
clarification.
we can do that. We'd have to vote to do it.
Okay.
Okay, and then,
So you want to make the meeting go longer, is what you're saying?
I think the idea is to, and also by closing, maybe the city attorney can explain a little better than I can. By closing, we haven't been doing this, but if we close the public hearing, then when we have these continued items, like we go on into, there is no, they can still speak because it is a public meeting, but it's not a public hearing. We can basically, why don't you explain the difference between?
If you're saying if we give a continuance and you've closed the public hearing.
We're not going to
when-
rehash the whole project.
Right, but so then the next time it's continued, you don't have to open a public hearing at that point, is that, or no?
It depends on what you want. So like when we bring back a resolution and you like, let's say you've unanimously decided you wanted to deny or approve, whichever one it may be, then when you bring it back the next time, they're not given the opportunity then to get up and re-argue their entire project. Certainly you can allow that if you want to, but you don't have to give them another, I guess, bite at the apple, yes, to just argue with you again and present the same points.
So you can, so if a project is approved, and when we bring a resolution of approval, okay, for a subsequent meeting, what we should be discussing is the resolution of approval as to its contents and its form or whatever, and not consider it a rehash of the entire project.
Agreed.
Unless there's just, there are questions or things that need to be, yeah.
Well, yeah, unless
And
we have questions that,
the majority of the commission wants to hear it again.
right.
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 But if you're satisfied, then you don't have to rehear it.
Well, and I think this is like a little bit of a slippery slope, right? I think we open it back up if we want more information, but we do not have to open it back up because they forgot to present something to us. And now that we're talking about it, they're like, ooh, I want to be able to address that. I want to be able to address that. Because we end up in these very protracted discussions. And I've been on that side of it too.
Right.
Where I was like, I get one shot to go up there and say what I'm going to say, so I better think it through and be well prepared and do a good job. So,
Well,
and I know it's hard because we all want to do the right
Yeah,
thing.
you want to.
You know, but I agree, we should try and follow those guidelines.
No. And I agree with that too, but tonight's a good example of, hey, if they can go over one unit, it makes everybody happy. Everyone was happy with that. So that's something we couldn't have done unless we heard them speak again. You know what I mean? We didn't get there unless we heard them speak again. So I'm just saying.
I'm not sure why she didn't give us that letter from the beginning.
Well, because she didn't want to. She didn't want to go there. She was going for A, and she realized that I better go B. You know what I mean? That's why she knew.
I think she was just holding it, waiting for maybe the right.
No, that's what I'm saying is she wanted
to pull out
the two original units, and then she decided that, you know what, I better go here because this may not work out well.
Well, she
if I
made a
don't.
comment that it wasn't set, the other one was set up to let less construction
Right.
Right.
It's gonna be more money.
Cheaper,
Now
yeah.
she has
Gonna
to
be
do
cheaper, yeah.
more, but that's the only way it probably would have happened. But yeah, that is a good, I mean, and even with the other candidate, I mean, I needed clarification a couple of times, or just had some additional questions after they made their statements.
Right. Well, but tonight would have been a good example where we could have gone to the applicant for that information. Hey, I want to open it back up so we can find out why you can't move to the side.
Correct.
Or we could have just kept it closed,
Yep.
and she would have never had the opportunity to do that. And
That's
she
right.
would have, and it would have been on her because she didn't take advantage of presenting that while she had a chance. A gamble, right?
Well, can they not go back up to the podium and ask if they can
Yes.
speak to it?
Only if
So, I
we
mean,
had-
it's not,
Well,
I don't think it's closing, right?
Well, they can always ask me. People shout things out all the time as well, but it would be up to the commission to decide if they want to hear it. Because I'm sure you've had cases too where you don't need to hear anything.
Right, they
further.
repeat themselves.
Right.
I do
Yeah,
that, I do
and
that.
sometimes they run on and say things they probably shouldn't say.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not good for their case.
It's not tonight, it was just, there's so much not needed.
We do have pre-meetings with these folks. Like Ron Robertson, we have a pre-meeting in here so you can get used to the room. We did that with Jessica as well. So this can be a very intimidating environment. So I met with both of them last week, brought them in here, this is how it's gonna go, this is what you're gonna be able to say. You have a PowerPoint, all of that stuff. They're not surprised by tonight. They're given a lot of notice about it. We kind of educate them. Some people know how to do this. The architects of the world, they know how to do this. But a lot of people don't. And it can be paralyzing for them to get up in front of 7 people and convince you why their project's the latest, greatest thing. So we take it seriously by giving them some exposure to the room in advance.
Okay, with that, we are, oh,
I can
I'm
speak.
sorry, I thought
You
we,
keep forgetting about me tonight. I'm bringing my own hammer.
all right.
The Los Alamitos Museum has chosen Debbie Kent and myself to honor as honored citizens this year. If you guys are interested in attending, it's on March 11th at 2 o'clock if you want to come by. I have no clue why they have my name there. I want to know who paid them.
Is that a weekend or weekday?
It's a Sunday at 2.
At the museum?
Uh-huh.
I haven't been there since it was a firehouse.
That's what they said on the wall. That's all. I just thought I'd mention it.
Okay. Okay, anything else? That's it. We're adjourned.